I tilted my head, raising a brow with mock innocence. Oh? So I am attractive to you. Rias froze mid-breath, crimson spreading all the way down her neck. Then, I leaned in, voice calm but cutting like a knife, why didn't you make a move on me? Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again like a dying goldfish. That's. You were asleep. I couldn't just. So you wanted to. I cut her off smoothly. What? No. I mean yes no that's. She buried her face in her hands, steam practically hissing out of her ears. I can't win with you. Akeno leaned in, eyes gleaming, smirk sharp as a blade. Era you're too cruel. Poor Rias-chan doesn't know how to handle being cornered like this. But if you're really that worried about being untouched. Her finger trailed slowly down my arm, light as silk. I could always fix that dot. P pervert. I yelped, smacking her hand away and hugging myself like a violated maiden. So bold. Attacking me in broad daylight. Akeno only chuckled, lips curling as she whispered, Fufu you really do make the cutest prey when you tremble like that. Rias peeked through her fingers, looking like she was 1 second away from combusting. I cannot take this anymore. Suddenly, Akeno gave the faintest little shove from behind. Wait. Rias stumbled forward. And before I could even react, her lips crashed against mine. Just a tiny peck. Just a fleeting spark. But my brain went nuclear. That was it. My first kiss. Gone. Stolen. By pure accident. I froze like a statue, while Rias's face went so red it looked like her entire body was about to steam cook itself alive. She made a noise half squeak, half shriek then promptly flailed backward, landing flat on the mattress and burying her face like a dying engine. Akeno gasped dramatically, covering her mouth. Era. Rias, stealing his first kiss in front of everyone? How scandalous. Rias's muffled scream erupted from the pillow, her legs kicking helplessly. I touched my lips slowly, still dazed. That was my first kiss. Akeno leaned closer, smirking like a demon who just won the lottery. Fufu what an adorable reaction. Poor boy, kissed against his will, lips stolen by Rias Gramarye herself. If you want revenge, you could always claim mine next. Stop talking. Rias exploded, grabbing the pillow and hurling it at Akeno, who dodged it while laughing hysterically. Wait. Why do you know that was my first kiss? I snapped, glaring at Akeno. Don't just assume something like that. Akeno tilted her head, finger to her lips, smiling with wicked certainty. Yufufu you just have that, aura. Innocent. Untouched. Adorably easy to read. My jaw dropped. Hey. Then, with the casual cruelty only she could manage, she added, besides, it was Rias's first kiss too. The room froze. Both Rias and I turned to stone at the same time. My face went up in flames instantly. Wait her first too. Rias's entire body seized up, then she sat bolt upright, hands flailing. Wah Akeno! Don't just say that out loud. Akeno only leaned back, cackling into her hand. Fufu look at you two, both blushing, both ruined. How sweet. First kisses stolen in one messy little accident. Truly fate at work. It wasn't fate, it was you pushing me. Rias shrieked, pointing an accusing finger while hiding half her face with the other hand. I covered my mouth dramatically, staring at Rias. So we're each other's firsts. Rias instantly comus dead, steam practically rising off her head. Stop saying it out loud. Before I could tease her again, her fist came flying straight into my face. Bam! Stars exploded in my vision, and my body flopped back onto the bed. My last fleeting thought before the darkness swallowed me was, oh, come on, why did I get an anime ending? And just like that, I blacked out. About an hour later, we were all seated at the breakfast table. The food smelled amazing, but the atmosphere was anything but. Every so often, my eyes would drift toward Rias. At the same moment, hers would drift toward me. And then our gazes collided. Instantly, both of us jerked our heads away, faces red, pretending to focus on our plates. Meanwhile, Akeno sat across from us, happily munching away with the brightest, most mischievous smile in existence. She practically glowed as she savored not just the food, but our reactions. Apparently, things had gone exactly as I'd suspected. When I'd gone to sleep last night, I'd forgotten to unlock the extra rooms for everyone. So Asia, Sana, Tsubaki, and Konako had ended up sleeping in Asia's room together. Which meant Rias and Akeno had ended up with me. Naked. Because apparently, those two just don't sleep with clothes on. I stabbed my rice with my chopsticks a little too hard. Yep. Totally normal breakfast. Konako, who had been quietly munching on her breakfast until now, suddenly lifted her gaze. Her golden eyes narrowed at Rias with the weight of absolute judgment. President, she said flatly. Pervert. And just like that, she calmly went back to her rice as if she had passed divine judgment and was now free of responsibility. The entire table froze. Rias sat there like a broken automaton, her fork still hovering halfway to her mouth. The color drained from her face before rushing back in a violent crimson wave. It was as if she had just been turned to stone, then shattered into dust on the spot. I calmly sipped my miso soup, hiding the smug grin tugging at my lips. Phew, good thing I struck first this morning. The rule is simple, the one who reacts first, who slaps and cries pervert, automatically becomes the victim. The one who reacts late? Well, they're painted as the offender, no matter what. And since I already claimed that role first, Rias has no escape. Heh. Nice job, me. I finally started to piece together what kind of people Rias and Akeno really were after this morning's madness. Rias, she isn't the type to get embarrassed about showing her body not because she's careless, but because for her it's something meaningful, maybe. She'll only bear herself around those she trusts completely, maybe even loves. It's her way of saying, I accept you at my most vulnerable. But when it comes to romance, when it comes to being blamed, teased, or cornered emotionally, her defenses crumble instantly. She's strong, dignified, and regal, yet she turns into a flustered mess the second love enters the equation. And Akeno, well, she's definitely not the Yandere I once feared she might be. But she is a shameless pervert beneath that graceful, polite mask. The kind who lives to tease, twist situations, and laugh at everyone else's expense. I guess, our little Cold War ends here. Or maybe it just evolved into something far more dangerous. Because damn it, thanks to this morning, I'm way too conscious of them now. Well, anyway, these are just my thoughts for now. It can change just like it did in the morning. Sana's sharp gaze swept over Rias, cold and unwavering. Rias, she said, her voice measured, if you have time for all this, you really should start focusing on building your peerage. You know what day is approaching. Enjoying your life isn't a problem, but don't forget your goal. Rias's expression softened, a hint of sadness flickering in her crimson eyes. She nodded gently. Don't worry, Sana. I haven't forgotten, she replied quietly, her voice steady but carrying the weight of promise. I furrowed my brow, curiosity getting the better of me. What are you girls talking about? I asked. Rias still looked a little downcast, so Sana spoke instead. It's nothing for you to worry about, just a family noble matter. However, you should seriously consider joining one of our peerages already. While you're powerful as a summoner, you're completely incompetent at everything else. I shot her an offended look. Hey! I'm not incompetent at all. Just wait, give me 3 or 4 years and I'll be stronger than all of you, even without my summons. Sana raised a single eyebrow, unimpressed. Really? The guy with zero combat sense, she asked, teasing. She leaned slightly closer, adopting a more serious tone. So that you know, summoners are actually one of the weakest classes. Take down the summoner, and their summons are powerless. That's why summoners spend so much time training with their summons to make sure they aren't a burden. I felt my pride prick a little, but I was reasonable enough to admit she had a point. Even if I was offended, her advice wasn't wrong. It was actually useful. I looked down a little, my voice losing its earlier bite. Well, it's not like I haven't thought about it before. Sana sighed softly, but there was a rare warmth in her eyes. That's exactly why I'm saying you should join either mine or Rias's peerage. We don't treat our peerage as tools or soldiers. We treat them as family. If you joined, you'd not only gain strength, but also people who would stand by your side. The sincerity in her voice caught me off guard. For a moment, she didn't sound like the calculating, composed president, she just sounded like someone genuinely worried for me. Is she in love with me, too? The thought flickered for only a moment, but I shook it off. The old me, the one from before all this, would have definitely clung to that idea, maybe even built my hopes on it. But lately, things feel different. Being here, living this life, it's forcing me to question myself. I keep comparing everything to anime, to fiction. That's just how I make sense of the world. But I can't forget this isn't a story I'm watching from the outside. This is my life. Reincarnation, illusion, dream, or reality, whatever it is, it's still mine. And because it's mine, I don't want to treat it carelessly. I wasn't a good man in my past life. If anything, I drifted, selfish and aimless. But now, here, surrounded by all of them, I feel something I never did before. I don't just want to grow stronger. I want to grow better. Not just as a summoner, not just as a fighter but as a person. Sure, I was scum, I could have grown if I tried. I could have connected to others, but in this life, I want to make it better than my previous one. Sana's words reminded me of that. I lifted my gaze, meeting her eyes, then letting it wander across everyone present. Their faces, these people who had somehow become so much more than just companions. Taking a slow breath, I spoke carefully, not with calculation, but with honesty. Sana, I said quietly, I truly appreciate your offer. I know it comes from a place of care. But I have to decline again. Not because of gain or loss, not because of fear or pride, but simply because I want to stay human, for as long as I can. For no greater reason than that, just because it's what I want. I let the words hang before continuing, softer now but with a weight I had never carried before. And about what you said, about family. It's tempting. More than tempting. But I don't need to seek one anymore. I allowed myself a faint smile. Because I already have one. The room seemed quieter than before. I could almost feel their eyes on me as I bowed my head slightly. You girls, you've given me something I never thought I'd have. You made me feel what family truly is, something warmer, better, than anything I ever knew in my past life. I don't think I can put into words how much it means to me. But please know this, to me, you are already my family. I straightened up, voice trembling just slightly at the edges. So, thank you. All of you. For everything. The silence stretched. For once, not even the clatter of dishes filled the room. Rias was the first to move. Her crimson hair trembled as she lowered her gaze, cheeks burning softly. You really know how to say things that are unfair, she whispered, voice almost tender. Family, I don't hate being called that. Akeno chuckled lightly, though the sound carried none of her usual teasing sharpness. Instead, her violet eyes shimmered. Fufu, I suppose that means I don't need to hide behind games anymore, she said gently. If you see us as family, then I'll protect that bond. Even if it costs me everything. Konako, who had been chewing slowly, set down her chopsticks. Her golden eyes narrowed in their usual cool stare, but this time there was something softer in them. Idiot, she murmured, almost too quietly. Saying things like that. You'll just make us worry more about you. Still, her small voice held no bite, just a strange, fragile warmth. Asia's hands trembled slightly as she pressed them together. Tears welled at the corners of her eyes, spilling freely before she could stop them. F family. She repeated shakily. I never thought I'd have one again. But, if you really think of me that way, then I'll treasure it forever. She sniffled, smiling through her tears. Tsubaki, always so composed, studied him with calm eyes. Her lips curved in a rare, genuine smile. You're surprisingly wise for someone so reckless, she said softly. I can see why President Rias and President Sana value you. Words like that, they carry weight. Finally, Sana adjusted her glasses, the faintest trace of a smile touching her lips. Her tone was steady, but her eyes betrayed something gentler. I understand your decision, she said. And I respect it. If you truly believe we are already your family, then I'll do my best to make sure you never regret those words. For a moment, none of them spoke further. But the silence no longer felt heavy, it was warm, like a quiet fire burning between them all. I smiled softly, reaching out to brush away the tears running down Asia's cheeks. Look, Asia, I said gently, even if you didn't have one before. You have a family now. We're here. I'm here. So stop crying, alright? None of us are ever going to abandon you. You don't need to worry about that anymore. All I want is for you to smile happily. Asia's lips quivered as more tears spilled, but this time they weren't from sadness. She nodded quickly, clutching my sleeve as if it were a lifeline. Oh okay. I'll smile. Because I'm really, really happy. Her innocent, trembling smile filled the room with a warmth that even Rias and the others couldn't resist softening to. While I may not change overnight, I know I will grow at my own pace. Suddenly, unnatural growth feels forced to me. But with these girls, even slow, steady steps carry meaning. That's the kind of growth I want. Bit by bit, with purpose, not rushed or artificial. I still occasionally compare my life to anime and games. I'll still act like a jerk, fail spectacularly at times, and stumble through moments of weakness. But even through all that, I will grow slowly, but genuinely, as a person alongside them. I could take shortcuts. Bank raid, Arceus, instant power. I could force myself into godhood if I wanted. But I don't. I don't want my life filled with empty victories like that. If I were to become a god in that way, could I ever truly say I earned it? No, I want my growth to be real, to be mine, flaws and all. And then there's the matter of their feelings. Rias, she confessed, even if it was teasing. But still she said it. And I'm certain the others feel something for me as well. I need to handle that carefully. I don't want to hurt anyone. Selfish as it may be, I don't want to choose just one, not yet. Not because I crave a harem, though I won't deny it, because I can't bear the thought of losing someone who loves me. Not yet. I know I should confess my feelings to Rias as soon as I've collected myself. I don't want to lose what I've gained in this life. She deserves my honest reaction, my honest heart, no excuses, no delay. After our wholesome family moment, we finished breakfast and left for school. Even though it had been a while since I started hanging out with them, people still looked at me with what I could only describe as pure killing intent. Jealousy, envy, maybe even a little hatred. Their thoughts were painfully obvious, even without reading minds. I hope I won't get stabbed by anyone one day, though, if they tried, they'd probably vanish into my shadow before they even made a move. We each went to our respective classes, though Konako, Asia, and I shared the same one. Asia has been learning Japanese with the girls, and now she can handle basic conversations on her own. From her very first day as a transfer student, she's been a top-tier adorable character, the class mascot, without even trying. She's tied in popularity with Konako, which is good, at least as long as the two get along. Konako sticks close, acting like a silent guardian, fending off any student who approaches with ill intentions. I guess she's protective of Asia too, in her own quiet, no-nonsense way. Our days fell into a routine, focusing on classes, coming together for lunch on the rooftop, or sometimes in the student council room or the orc club room. Then back to school life again. After classes ended today, Konako told me that she and Akeno were going shopping. I nodded, handing some money to Konako. While I may be a little stingy with money for myself, there was no way I'd hold back for Asia. She's suffered too much. I wanted her to enjoy a normal life as much as she could. I handed the money to Konako, telling her to buy anything Asia wanted and to have fun. With that, I bid them farewell, watching them leave with a small smile. After packing my things, I decided to head to the orc club room. When I entered, Rias was alone. She looked stressed, her brow slightly furrowed as she worked through a pile of papers. My chest tightened at the sight. I wanted to lift her mood, but I knew myself too well. I wasn't exactly good at this. Still, I had to try. Maybe, just maybe, I could make her feel even a little lighter. I sank onto the sofa and spoke casually. Yo, Rias. How's it going? Sigh. I shouldn't have expected much from myself. Rias looked up, offering a soft smile. I'm doing fine, Xavian. I have a lot of work right now, but you're free to stay here and keep me company. The first word that came to mind was simple. Fake. That smile wasn't hers. The Rias I knew could light up a room with her smile, effortless and warm. This one, she was forcing it, hiding her worries so I wouldn't notice. My chest tightened with guilt and frustration. I spoke seriously, my voice low but firm. Rias, something's bothering you. You've barely been yourself these past few days. Rias froze. What? What are you talking about, Xavian? I'm completely fine, she said, trying to reassure me with that carefully crafted smile. Seeing her like that, a storm of anger rose inside me. Not at her, but at myself. This girl was hiding, forcing herself to smile just so I wouldn't worry. And the thought that I had made her do that twisted something in my chest. I leaned forward, lowering my voice almost to a whisper. Drop that smile, Rias. You're not fooling me. For the last few days, your mind has been elsewhere. I've seen it. You stare at nothing for minutes, even when we talk. Don't act like everything's fine. I can see through it. We remained quiet for several minutes. Rias seemed to be weighing her options, deciding whether to reveal whatever was troubling her. Finally, she let out a soft sigh and asked, Xavian, what do you think of me? Her gaze was fixed on her feet, almost resigned to whatever answer I would give. I hesitated for a moment before letting out a small sigh. You, what kind of question is that? Is this about this morning? Don't worry, I don't think you're a rapist or anything, so you don't need to get worked up. Her face suddenly turned bright red, and she hurled a book at me. Not that, idiot. I mean, in general. What do you think of me as a person? Ah, she meant that kind of question. I thought for a few moments, watching her fidget restlessly, before finally deciding to speak honestly. Rias, honestly, I think of you as one of the most important people in my life. I stood from the sofa and stepped in front of her, taking her hands gently in mine. I don't know why you're asking or if my answer will help, but to me, you're already my family. You're a demon sergeant in training, bold enough to sleep beside me without hesitation or clothes, quick to blush when I tease you, and yet capable of smiling in a way that's entirely yours. You are Rias, the girl I care about, and so do others. You don't need to find your worth in my words alone. The Rias I know will always create her own worth with her own hands, won't she? Rias looked at me quietly before speaking. You're right. I'll make it worth it with my own hands. I suppose I forgot, with everything that's been going on. Thank you, Zivian, for reminding me. As she said that, her lips curved into a smile, this time a genuine one, soft and radiant, unlike the fake, hollow smile she had worn before. I returned her smile, relieved. It seemed she had finally set aside some of her worries. Wait. I almost forgot there was something else I needed to tell her. Rias, there's something else I need to discuss with you. Rias tilted her head, her crimson hair swaying gently as her gaze fixed on me with quiet curiosity. My throat tightened, and I found myself fidgeting with my fingers. Just the thought of saying it made my chest feel heavy. It was my first time trying to talk about romance with a girl. Or well, anyone else for that matter. Rias, about you, loving me. Her eyes widened, a spark of surprise flashing in them. She straightened slightly, almost instinctively, and I could see her shoulders tense. Then, little by little, color crept into her cheeks, staining them a soft pink. I forced myself to meet her gaze, even as my heart pounded in my ears. I also love you, Rias. The words tumbled out awkwardly, yet carried every bit of the weight in my chest. For a heartbeat, the world felt still. She started blushing even more. I took a shaky breath and forced myself to go on. But, unfortunately, I can't choose just you. My voice wavered as the words left my lips. I want others as well. I know it sounds selfish, but I don't want only one of you, I want all of you. The weight of my own admission pressed down on me, and I lowered my head in shame. I love all of you. Every one of you is too important for me to cast aside. I can't bring myself to pick just one. The silence that followed felt suffocating, my heartbeat echoing in my ears as I braced myself for her reaction. Somehow, as the words spilled out, tears began to well in my eyes. I didn't even know why, but I didn't bother to wipe them away. Maybe, it felt right to let them show. I swallowed hard and pressed on. I know you might not accept me for this, but I can't lie about what I want. I want all of you, not just one of you. Maybe that makes me selfish, maybe it even sounds like I'm asking for a harem, but it's the truth. My voice cracked, and I clenched my fists, forcing the words out. I don't want to lose anyone, not after finally finding something that feels like family to me. Pfft. Pfft. I froze, blinking in confusion as a sound slipped through the silence. Slowly, I lifted my head only to see Rias pressing a hand to her lips, her shoulders trembling as she tried, and failed, to hold back her laughter. My mind went blank. If this were a manga or anime, there would have been a dozen question marks floating above my head while I wore the dumbest expression possible. Then, without warning, Rias burst out laughing. Her melodic voice echoed through the room, leaving me even more bewildered. Between her laughter, she managed to say, "Zivian, you worry too much. In the supernatural world, harems are more common than not. Honestly, finding a couple without one is harder. Ha ha ha. You've been so serious over something that's basically common sense. Ha ha ha, you really are too precious." And just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, the real demon appeared. Akeno strolled in gracefully, balancing a tray of tea in one hand and of all things a video camera in the other, as if nothing unusual was happening. She set the tea down in front of Rias with a smile that was far too innocent. Then she turned her gaze on me, her lips curling into that mischievous smile I knew all too well. "Fufufo, my, Zivian. I never knew you were the emotional type of guy. Look, I've got all of it recorded in HD. Fufufo." I lunged forward on instinct, reaching for the camera. But Akeno moved with a teasing swiftness, pulling it just out of reach, her laughter trailing behind her like a taunt. I straightened myself and forced a smile, acting as if I hadn't just tried to snatch the camera a second ago. Akeno smiled back, sweet, innocent, and completely fake. Without warning, I shot my hand out again. She slipped away just as quickly, her laughter ringing in my ears. And so it began, the battle. I lunged, reaching and swiping desperately for the camera, while she danced out of reach every time, protecting it like a treasure. The room filled with the sound of scuffling footsteps, laughter, and my increasingly frustrated growls as our ridiculous tug-of-war raged on. Finally, I triumphed. With a victorious shout, I snatched the camera and hurled it to the ground, stomping on it relentlessly until I was certain it was destroyed. I wiped the sweat from my brow, proud of my hard work. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Akeno, still smiling that infuriatingly calm smile, leaned forward slightly, and between her ample cleavage, she revealed a single memory card. I froze. Of course it was the one with the video. The camera itself was empty. I've been tricked. She'd known all along and had just been playing with me. Silently, she tucked the memory card back into her deep valley, her smile never wavering. Phew phew phew, I made sure to capture every single one of your tears, Xavian. Oh, and by the way, that camera wasn't cheap. What should I do? She spoke as if it were a minor inconvenience, but to me, it was clearly blackmail. I sank into a perfect 90-degree bow, thrusting money forward as I said, voice trembling with a mix of defeat and urgency. Please, let me pay for it. Suddenly, her voice dropped into a chilling, icy tone. Where is the mistress, you slave? What? I slowly looked up, and all I saw were her eyes cold, sharp, and filled with an authority that froze me in place. My mind raced. Maybe I'm totally screwed? Bring me a new camera by evening, slave. Her words cut through the air like ice before she turned and walked away, her heels clicking softly against the floor. Was she always like this? Still dazed, I blinked as Rias stood up and moved closer. The warmth of her presence washed over me, grounding me after Akeno's unsettling exit. Don't worry, she said gently. Even though you didn't need to say all that, your words made me really happy knowing you think of us that way. Her tone shifted slightly, taking on a teasing lilt. Also, don't worry. I know Akeno well enough, she won't really blackmail you. Though knowing her, she might show it to Asia, Konako, Sana, and the others. I gulped. Well, I guess it's good to know, but honestly, I really didn't want my crying, emotional scene immortalized on everyone's phones for the rest of my life. Then, suddenly, Rias's cheeks tinged pink. She looked at me with a mix of nervousness and anticipation. So? Are we dating now? Hearing her words, I felt heat rush to my own face. I fumbled a little, voice shy and uncertain. Well, I guess we are now, I'm new to this, so, please take care of me. She smiled softly, a hint of blush still coloring her cheeks. I'm also new to this, so please take care of me too. We both laughed nervously, but our faces remained red almost as if they were steaming, caught in the sweet, awkward bubble of our first confession. At the time, I didn't even notice, but Akeno had quietly set up a new camera and was secretly re-recording us. Oblivious to her mischief, Rias and I talk a bit with each other, hearts still fluttering from the confession, completely unaware that our little moment had an audience. We returned to our work. I dove into my game development while she focused on her paperwork. The room was quiet, the soft scratch of pen on paper and the gentle clicking of keys filling the space. It was simple, but nice. Later that night, after Asia and I had finished dinner, I was preparing for bed. Just as I was about to turn off the lights, the doorbell rang. Confused, I wondered who could be visiting at this hour, but curiosity and a sense of responsibility pushed me to check anyway. I opened the door, and there she was, Rias. What are you doing out this late? I asked, genuinely puzzled. Rias met my gaze with a solemn, resolute expression. My heart skipped a beat. Before I could even think, she stepped forward and placed her hands firmly on my chest, her eyes locking onto mine with a pleading intensity. Xavian, please, sleep with me. Huh? My mind went completely blank. What was happening? Had I misheard? Seeing the bewilderment in my eyes, Rias stepped closer, her resolve unwavering, and spoke even more directly. I want you to take my virginity. Immediately. I froze. I don't think I'd ever heard words so startling, so stimulating, in my entire life. Well, I didn't really understand what was going on here, but refusing a lady outright would have felt impossibly rude. Almost moving on instinct, I led her toward my room. See, come on. Let's get into the bedroom. I'll be ready in a moment. Soon we reached my bedroom. Before I could even steady myself, Rias all but pushed me inside, her hands already moving to her uniform. Hold on, what? My thoughts scrambled, completely unable to keep up with her sudden, decisive actions. Whoosh! Her skirt came off in a single motion, fluttering to the ground. My breath caught as pure white fabric came into view, her underwear practically glowing in the dim light. Her long, slender legs were perfectly shaped, almost sculpted, and her smooth thighs practically radiated temptation. My heart thundered in my chest. And then, her fingers moved to her blouse. Arias. This is. My voice cracked, panic and disbelief battling in my head. Whoosh. The blouse fell away, and now only her bra kept her chest from full view. My eyes were locked helplessly on her, unable to look away. Each deep breath she took only made the fabric strain, accentuating the perfect curves it cradled. Now dressed in nothing but her underwear, Rias inhaled sharply, gathering her courage, and began walking toward me step by step, her gaze never leaving mine. This was the second time I'd seen her naked, but the shock hit me no less than the first. My brain was short-circuiting. Zevian. Am I no good? She asked softly, her eyes trembling with vulnerability. That's not true at all. I couldn't dream of anyone better. I blurted out, panicked but honest. I've put a lot of thought into it, she continued, her voice steady, and I can't think of any other way. Any other way of what? My mind screamed, completely lost on what she meant. Once it's done, no one will be able to say otherwise. You're the only person close to me with whom I can do this. Me. I wasn't entirely sure what was going on, but one thing was clear: Rias had chosen me as her first. To resist now would be like trampling all over her feelings. Well, not really. Honestly, I was just piling up every excuse possible to justify going along with it. But at this point? Yeah, I was going to do it. This is your first time, isn't it, Zevian? Or, have you done it before? Rias asked, her cheeks faintly red, yet her gaze steady. It's my first. I admitted, my voice breaking from nerves. I thought so. She gave a small, almost relieved smile. Me too. We might lack experience, but, let's make sure we see this through to the end. Her words carried both vulnerability and resolve, making my heart pound even harder. Don't worry, it's very simple, she continued, her tone calm, almost instructional. Then, with a gentle movement, her hand drifted down toward her lower abdomen. You just need to put it, here. The sight alone was enough to make my brain nearly short-circuit. My whole body tensed, overwhelmed by the mix of anticipation, nerves, and sheer arousal. I felt like my mind might explode at any moment. Next, she gently took hold of my right hand and guided it downward, pressing it against herself and jiggle. My fingers sank into the softness of her breast, squeezed there by Rias's own hand leading mine. A warm, supple sensation spread through my palm, every finger feeling as if it were burning. It was like every nerve in my entire body had suddenly gathered into that single hand. My heart pounded violently. Wait. At least let me prepare my heart for this. Can you tell? Rias cooed softly. I'm nervous too. Can you feel my heart beating? Her words snapped me back to reality. And sure enough, pressed against her soft bosom, I could feel it. Her heart was pounding, racing no slower than mine. Looking closer, I noticed her pale, porcelain skin had taken on a faint pink hue. Rias is nervous too? She was always so composed, so elegant, the very image of confidence and grace. Yet here she was anxious, vulnerable, just like me. I'm such an idiot. Of course, she's just like me right now. I lifted my hand and gently cupped her face, leaning in until our lips met in a soft, lingering kiss. Her warmth, her nervous breath, her trembling yet steady resolve, everything about that moment was unforgettable. When we parted, I looked deeply into her eyes, my voice steady with conviction. Rias, let's do it. I love you, and I won't regret being with you. And I know you feel the same. Let's make your first time memorable. Her eyes shimmered, and she nodded silently, her blush deepening. With that, the distance between us vanished once more as our lips met again, more certain this time. Our lips found each other once more, this time with certainty. Her arms wrapped around me, mine around her, and the world outside seemed to slip away, leaving just the two of us, hearts pounding in sync, breaths mingling. The night quietly embraced us, and in that warmth, we entrusted ourselves to each other. Morning light spilled gently through the window, casting a warm glow over the room. I stirred, blinking against the brightness, still feeling the warmth and closeness from last night. Beside me, Rias was curled up peacefully, her hair splayed across the pillow and her face soft in sleep. A quiet smile tugged at my lips. Last night, everything had been overwhelming, nerve-wracking, and yet, perfectly ours. I carefully shifted not to wake her, my mind replaying bits of last night, the blush returning to my cheeks despite the calm morning. It was surreal and yet it felt completely right. Rias stirred slightly, letting out a soft murmur before nestling closer, still half asleep. My heart skipped a beat. Yeah, we're really together now. The room was quiet, save for the gentle rhythm of our breathing. Outside, the world moved on, but here, in this small, warm space, everything felt suspended like time itself had decided to hold its breath. Last night was incredible. Being with Rias for the first time, sharing something so intimate, was beyond anything I could have imagined. Because devils aren't very fertile, we didn't have to worry about protection, and, well, you can probably guess just how intense and amazing it was. The bed was a complete mess by the time we were done, but somehow, I loved every bit of it. Every mark, every movement, every heartbeat shared it was ours. Even now, thinking about it makes my heart pound and my cheeks warm. Rias stirred beside me, and just seeing her there made my fondness for her grow even stronger. I gently stroked her hair, feeling an almost overwhelming sense of gratitude. To think I have such an amazing girl who loves me. I'm really blessed in this life. Slowly, she opened her eyes, still naked but honestly, at this point, I didn't care. Growth. Not flustered, just, content. Growth. I loved seeing her like this. Growth. She stretched her arms above her head, letting out a soft yawn, before looking at me with a gaze full of affection. Good morning, Zevian. I returned her smile, my heart warm. Good morning to you, too, Rias. You look so lovely. I nuzzled gently against her neck, feeling the warmth of her skin and the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. I love you, Rias, I whispered gently. She stroked my head tenderly, her fingers weaving through my hair as she looked at me with a gentle, sincere smile. I know, Zevian. I love you too. And honestly, last night was the best decision I've ever made. Thank you, for making it my best decision. Her words sent a warmth through me that went beyond anything physical. This was love, trust, and intimacy all wrapped into one perfect moment. She gently pushed me off, a soft smile on her lips. Okay, Zevian, let's go to the bathroom and wash up. We're all sweaty and messy. Also, do you want to join me? I blinked twice, barely able to process the invitation, before agreeing immediately. Of course. We slid out of bed together, completely at ease, walking side by side toward the bathroom. Rias leaned lightly against me, her warmth pressing close, and I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of contentment. But the moment I opened my bedroom door to head toward the bathroom, I froze. Standing there was an unfamiliar woman with silver hair, dressed in a pristine maid's outfit. I had no idea who she was. I mean, in this house, the only one who should have a maid is Rias. She's the noble heir of her clan. And, why was she here, of all times, after Rias had just, well, spent the night with a human? The maid's sharp gaze swept over us, from head to toe. We were naked. Messy. Still very much, a product of last night. Clank. Suddenly, a loud metallic sound echoed through the room. My mind scrambled. What just happened? Grafia. Zevian, are you alright? Before I could respond, Rias stepped in front of me protectively, her eyes scanning my body as if checking for injuries. Wait, what's going on? Then, she spun on her heels and fixed the maid with a cold, commanding glare. Grafia, what do you think you're doing? While I was still too stunned to understand what was happening, the maid spoke, her voice cold and formal. Lady Rias, doing such a thing with a lowly human commoner. His lordship and Master Sertsk's would be greatly disheartened to learn that you surrendered your chastity to someone so beneath you. Hearing those words uttered with such authority and disdain by the woman I assumed was Grafia only made Rias's anger flare even further. Her eyes narrowed, her lips pressing into a thin line, and the air around her seemed to grow heavier with her fury. Don't you dare talk to me like that, Grafia. My chastity is mine and mine alone. It's up to me to give it to someone I love. Rias snapped, her voice sharp and full of righteous anger. Grafia's expression remained calm and composed, her tone formal and unyielding. In any event, Lady Rias, you are the heir of the House of Gremory. Please do not carelessly expose yourself to random gentlemen. That applies even in the best of situations. The cold precision of her words only fueled Rias's fury further, her chest rising and falling as she struggled to contain the storm of emotions building inside her. Although I had no idea what was really going on, I wrapped my arms around Rias from behind, gently stroking her hair. SHH. Rias, calm down. You look way cuter when you're not angry, I whispered gently. Rias paused for a moment, taking a deep, steadying breath. Her voice was low, almost trembling as she spoke. But, Zevian, she attacked you, she tried to cut off your legs. What the hell? That clang, so that's what happened. It finally clicked. The maid had tried to strike me, probably with lethal intent, but Giratina must have intercepted the attack so quickly that I hadn't even seen it happen. My heart raced as adrenaline and disbelief coursed through me. I let out a slow sigh, forcing myself to stay calm. Rias was already furious, all for my sake. It's fine, Rias. Look, I'm completely okay. That's all that matters. A single tear slid down her cheek, and my chest tightened. But, Xavian, if you hadn't, I would have lost the most important person to me, and watched him be crippled. Well, true. Even with my powers, if your loved one were a normal human, I guess I'd be just as furious. But still, Rias. I'm fine. So please, calm down, okay? She nodded slightly, then spun to face Graphia, her eyes blazing. Graphia, you are a maid. You have no right to interfere in my life. I order you, as the heir of the Gremory clan, to return to your duties and repent for your mistakes. Do not speak to me again until you have repented enough. For the first time since her appearance, a look of shock and even a trace of sadness crossed Graphia's face. She bowed her head deeply. I apologize for my rudeness and for stepping out of my bounds as a maid. I hope that later we can have a proper conversation to make amends. For now, I will take my leave, Mistress Rias. When you have calmed down, I would like to apologize again in person. Then Graphia turned her gaze to me. I am sorry to you as well. Master Xavian. With that, she bowed once more and vanished in a swirl of magic, the teleportation circle fading behind her. Finally, Rias let out a long, relieved sigh and wrapped her arms around me, holding me close. Thank goodness you're not hurt, she murmured, pressing her face against my chest. I hugged her back gently, feeling the warmth of her body and the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. It's all right, Rias. I'm fine. You don't have to worry about me. The tension from earlier slowly melted away, leaving only the quiet comfort of being in each other's arms. Rias POV. Morning light slipped into the room as I slowly awoke, warmth resting against me. Gentle hands stroked through my hair. It was Xavian, the one I had chosen. I stretched, still drowsy from last night, my body heavy yet satisfied. When I turned toward him, affection swelled inside me until it hurt. A smile tugged at my lips. Last night, I had chosen him. My first. My everything. No regrets, only pride that I chose him. Yes, he's full of faults. Childish, immature, reckless, and yet, I loved him with all of it. Because somewhere within all those flaws, I found the man I wanted. I had finally found my love, the one I always yearned for. He leaned closer, nuzzling his head against my neck. I love you, Rias, he whispered. I stroked his head tenderly, my heart swelling. I know, Xavian. I love you too. And honestly, last night was the best decision I've ever made. Thank you, for making it my best decision. We rose together, deciding to wash. But when we opened the bedroom door, she was there. Graphia. Before I could even process her presence, metal rang out. A strike. My breath caught. It was so fast yet I barely caught it. She had aimed for his legs. And then, a dark barrier flared, absorbing the blow. His summon, most likely. But none of that mattered. She tried to hurt him. Rage rushed through me, fierce and uncontrollable. I stepped in front of Xavian, magic crackling with my heartbeat. Graphia, what do you think you're doing? My voice shook with fury. And yet, she spoke as calmly as ever, cold, formal, merciless. Condemning my choice. Belittling Xavian. Speaking of chastity as though my body, my heart, belonged to the clan. Each word struck like a knife. Every syllable mocked what I had found with him. No. Never again will I let them dictate my life. Don't you dare talk to me like that, Graphia. My chastity is mine and mine alone. It's up to me to give it to someone I love. I shouted, pressing myself closer to Xavian, shielding him from her judgment, her blade, her poison. His whispers brushed my ear, trying to calm me. But his gentleness only made my chest ache more. She attacked him. She really tried. If his summon hadn't stopped her, I might have lost him. My love. My future. Perhaps I was being dramatic, but if she had succeeded, he would have been crippled. The thought nearly shattered me. But I refused to falter. I would not allow anyone to control me, not anymore. Graphia. You are a maid. You have no right to interfere in my life. I order you, as the heir of the Gremory clan, to return to your duties and repent for your mistakes. Do not speak to me again until you have repented enough. For the first time, her composure cracked. Sadness flashed in her eyes before she bowed and vanished. The circle faded. My knees weakened. I collapsed into Xavian's arms, trembling, burying my face against his chest. Thank goodness you're not hurt. In his embrace, I realized just how much he meant to me. He wasn't just my lover. He was my everything. I will become stronger, strong enough to never let anyone dictate to me again. I've had enough of others controlling my life. If I allow it, I will lose the people I love and that, I will never forgive myself for. This moment made me realize how much I have changed cause of him, cause of my love. Graphia's POV. I arrived at the boys' home in silence, my teleportation circle fading behind me. I was late. Too late, perhaps. Yet still, I prayed that Lady Rias had not already done something reckless. But a sigh escaped me. I should have known. The moment her engagement was moved forward, it was inevitable that she would rebel. I had relied on a summon to keep watch over her, only for her to destroy it. Foolish of me to underestimate her resolve. As I approached the door to her chamber, I hoped naively that I was wrong. That she had refrained. That she had remembered her duties. But then the door opened from within. It was the boy. Naked. And behind him Lady Rias, equally bare, her skin still flushed with the aftermath of what had transpired. My fears were confirmed. How dare he? A lowly human had dared to touch her, to claim what should have been preserved for her station, for her clan. Rage overcame restraint. Without hesitation, I struck, aiming for his legs swift and decisive. If he could not walk, he would never again stand beside her. But my attack was intercepted. A thin, black, shadowy barrier flared into existence, absorbing the strike. A sacred gear, perhaps. Impressive, but ultimately meaningless if I pressed further. Yet before I could, Lady Rias moved. She stepped between us. Her body trembled not with fear, but with fury. She had always been willful, but this was no longer childish rebellion. She was openly defying me. Lady Rias, I said, voice as cold and sharp as steel. Doing such a thing with a lowly human commoner. His lordship and Master Sertsk's would be greatly disheartened to learn that you surrendered your chastity to someone so beneath you. It was not cruelty. It was the truth. She needed to hear it now, before regret consumed her later. But then, the boy embraced her. And instead of flinching in shame, she calmed. As though his arms could shield her from me, from the family, from the weight of the world she carried. When she raised her gaze to me again, it was no longer the gaze of the little girl I had raised. Her presence radiated the dignity of a true noblewoman. Her words fell upon me like judgment. Graphia, you are a maid. You have no right to interfere in my life. I order you, as the heir of the Gremory clan, to return to your duties and repent for your mistakes. Do not speak to me again until you have repented enough. Her voice carried command. Authority. For the first time, she had used her right as heir to punish me. I should have felt pride. She had finally stepped into her role. She had finally claimed her independence. But all I felt was ache. Ache, and the faint weight of loss. I bowed my head. My composure did not break, though I felt the fissure within. I apologize for my rudeness and for stepping out of my bounds as a maid. I hope that later we can have a proper conversation to make amends. For now, I will take my leave, Mistress Rias. When you have calmed down, I would like to apologize again in person. The teleportation circle rose beneath my feet. As my body dissolved into light, I whispered in silence to myself. Perhaps she is growing, in her own way. Perhaps this is the path she must walk. Even so, forgive me, Lady Rias. For I cannot yet bring myself to approve. And then I was gone. Giratina's POV. It was the middle of the night when the girl, Rias, came to Master. From the way she looked at him, the way she touched him, it was clear now. They were no longer simply companions. They belonged to one another. Though curiosity urged me to watch, my attention shifted to something else, a peeping summon, lurking in the distance, spying from the shadows. With a mere thought, I pulled it into my distortion world. Its tether to its master snapped like a fragile thread, and then I consumed it, its essence, memories, and knowledge sinking into me. Through that devouring, I saw what was meant to happen. Graphia was supposed to come that night, to interfere, to stop Rias from giving herself to Master. Her reasoning tied to some engagement, shifted forward. Unacceptable. So, I reached into the fabric of fate itself, and distorted it to chaos. The course of events bent under my will. Graphia would not arrive until morning. By then, it would be too late. By then, Master and Rias would already be bound by choice, by love. Because the Master must grow. And I will not let anyone interfere with that growth. This world, it is so much better than the one I left behind. There is no Arceus here, no endless struggle against Dialga or Palkia. Here, I am free. Free because of the Master and his system. I owe him for that. And I will repay it with loyalty. In this world, I have learned much. I can now thread myself into the internet, through the signals that dance across the globe. I can peer into countless lives, devour knowledge endlessly, and even project multiple screens at once watching, analyzing, learning. Honestly, Master underestimates me. But that is fine. Because whether he knows it or not, I am always watching. I know Master plans to summon Arceus eventually. When that day comes, I am certain Arceus, too, will be bound by him. That means I will not need to follow Arceus anymore, we will simply stand as companions. Master may remain weak in strength if he so chooses, but at the very least, I want him to grow as a person. I could distort his power, elevate him forcefully, but I will not. Arceus is far more adept at guiding strength than I am. I will leave that role to him. Morning came, and Master awoke. For a moment, when my gaze fell into his chamber, the entire room froze under the weight of my stare. I quickly withdrew my power, steadying the distortion. Then, in the hall, a magic circle flared to life. The silver-haired maid Graphia had arrived. I was not interested in her. But she was family to the girl Rias, so I did not end her. I merely stopped her attack, not that she could ever truly harm Master. When she finally left, I withdrew my attention. And then, as if nothing had happened, I returned to watching the anime Master enjoys so much. After the chaos with Graphia, Rias, and I calmed down and decided to take a bath together before heading out. Soon after, Asia joined us, we had breakfast, and then the three of us left for school like nothing had happened. But inside, I couldn't shake the weight of this morning's incident. Graphia's attack, and how easily things could have gone wrong, it all forced me to face something I'd been pushing aside. I wasn't strong enough. Not yet. Sure, Giratina protected me, but if I always leaned on him, I'd never grow. Arceus was supposed to be my ultimate trump card, but maybe summoning him should wait. Until then, I needed my own power. Something that was mine. When my free period rolled around, I finally opened the system panel. More than a month had passed since I last really used it. The familiar blue interface flickered before my eyes. My funds had grown nicely, nearly 1 billion yen saved up through careful investment. Enough to buy another legendary if I wanted. But even that, what good was a godly beast if the trainer was a dead weight? I sighed, scrolling through the listings. Almost everything was built for Pokémon. Rare items, moves, held objects, things that boosted them. Not me. Still too weak. I muttered under my breath. I thought maybe buying a Mega Stone for now would be enough. A Mega Giratina, that alone could tilt the balance in my favor. I guess I gotta look for the Griseous Orb instead. But as I was thinking, mindlessly scrolling through the endless list of items, something caught my eye. It was a TM. And not just any TM. TM, time stop price, 270,000 yen. His brain stalled. A TM, for time stop? It wasn't the time stop itself that stood out. What froze me was the fact that I knew for sure there had never been a TM like this in any Pokémon game, anime, or manga. Was this system pulling things from the entire Pokémon multiverse? Or, were these future releases that hadn't even been revealed yet? Damn it! Why didn't I get a sentient system that could explain things to me? I cursed under my breath. No point in dwelling on it. If there were items from across timelines or universes, then there had to be something usable for me, too. I scrolled for a long while, sifting through items I'd never even heard of before. But still, everything was bound to Pokémon. Finally, something popped up that made me pause. It wasn't perfect, but it was the closest thing to what I was looking for. Soul Resonance Crystal. Type: Transformation Artifact. Description: a rare crystal that harmonizes the trainer's aura with their Pokémon. By channeling the bond between them, both merge their essences and transform into a hybrid state for 3 minutes, embodying the Pokémon's power. Price: 33 million SP. I bought it. The moment the purchase went through, a new item appeared in my inventory, a crystal pendant with a strange, almost otherworldly luster. Along with it, a manual shimmered into existence. I slipped the pendant out under the desk, quickly fastening it around my neck and tucking it beneath my shirt. The instant it touched my skin, I felt different. It was hard to put into words, but the best way to describe it was an instinct-level connection. Something deep inside told me without a doubt, I was connected to Giratina. I pulled the manual from my inventory and skimmed through it, hiding it behind my textbook. Just as the description had said, the Soul Resonance Crystal granted me a 3-minute transformation into a hybrid state with any Pokémon I shared a strong bond with. The stronger the loyalty, the stronger the fusion. Thanks to my perk, loyalty was always maxed out. Meaning Giratina and I could merge without issue. Still, there were limits. Only once per day. Only 3 minutes. And it only worked with Pokemon above level 100. Even so, that was more than enough. Excitement buzzed in my chest as I scrolled further through the store. If I were going to use this properly, I needed Giratina at its peak. That's when I found it. The Griseous Orb. Type, Evolution. Description, holding it permanently transforms Giratina into its mega form until the orb is taken away. Price, 580 million SP. I stared at it, my lips twitching into a grin. Too bad I couldn't keep spending. After buying the Soul Resonance Crystal and the Griseous Orb, I only had a little over 400 million yen left, which I will need to invest more in other projects as well. Not nearly enough for going on a shopping spree here. I sighed, leaning back in my chair. Guess I'll have to start saving again. It was frustrating, but worth it. If I could gain strength on my own instead of relying on Pokemon alone, then the weight wouldn't matter. Then again, this is still Pokemon's strength, but now mine as well? A bit confusing, I guess. Besides, I already had my next goal in mind. That telepathy TM I spotted earlier, it was perfect for Giratina. If I could talk with him directly, not just through instinct and guesses, our bond would deepen even further. Once I got that, then I could go back to preparing for Arceus. It was lunch break when I was getting ready to head for the rooftop. Just as I grabbed my bag, Kiba approached with his usual calm smile. Xavian, Konako, Asia, he said politely, the president has called us. Please come to the Orc Club room, she wishes to discuss something. Konako, munching on a snack as always, gave a short nod. Asia looked a little nervous but smiled brightly as she stood up. I slung my bag over my shoulder. Got it. Let's go. The four of us walked together down the quiet halls, the sound of chatter from other classrooms fading as we made our way toward the familiar doors of the Occult Research Club. As we walked together through the corridors, I could already feel the stares burning into my back. In this group, I was the one who stood out the most, not for a good reason. I could hear the whispers. Why is this guy walking with them? He looks so average. Some didn't even bother whispering. Their hostility was clear. I could practically taste the killing intent coming from a few of the boys glaring at me just because I was walking beside Konako and Asia. I sighed inwardly. Still, I kept my expression calm and followed the others until we reached the club room. We reached the club room. Rias was already inside, seated at her desk, her crimson hair flowing behind her like a banner. Akeno stood beside her, that ever-present smile on her lips, but it wasn't her usual playful one. This time it felt sharp, restrained. Both of them radiated a no-nonsense aura that filled the room like heavy smoke. Kiba, Konako, Asia, and I filed in quietly. Oddly, no one greeted us. The silence pressed down, thick and uncomfortable. Asia, sensing it too, fidgeted beside me. Her hand reached out, clutching the edge of my sleeve like a lifeline. I gave her a gentle pat on the head. She blinked up at me, her anxious expression softening just a little. Then Rias's gaze swept across each of us one by one, firm and commanding. I see we're all here. She paused, folding her hands together. Before we get started, there's something we have to discuss. Suddenly, a different magic circle lit up in the middle of the club room floor. Crimson flames erupted, spiraling upward, and a tall silhouette stepped out from within. With a sharp flick of his arm, the flames dissipated, leaving behind a man dressed in a striking red suit. He wore it almost mockingly, no tie, top buttons undone, his chest exposed like he was in some kind of flashy drama. He looked to be in his early 20s, with sharp features and a dangerous aura radiating off him. His hands casually slid into his pockets, but there was nothing casual about the tension he brought with him. Honestly, he looked like he'd just walked straight out of a host club. A host demon? That was the only way my brain could rationalize it. And his face, ugh. He had the kind of pretty boy charm that always rubbed me the wrong way. If Kiba was the refined prince, then this guy was the wild rogue. Not that it mattered, at least he wasn't better looking than everyone else here. Though, maybe, just maybe, he was a teeny, little bit more handsome than me. A fact I instantly shoved down into the darkest corner of my mind. Still, the real issue wasn't his looks. It was the sheer anger simmering behind his expression as his eyes swept across the room. Why was he here? And more importantly, why did it feel like he was ready to explode? His eyes suddenly lock on Rias. Rias, what is the meaning of this? Why did you cheat on me? And with a filthy, lowly human, he snarls, stalking forward. Rias meets him calmly, cold as ice. Riser, it's up to me who I end up with. You have no right. And how many times must I tell you that I never agreed to this engagement? Wow, look, birds are chirping outside. No. Don't escape reality, you idiot. There's still a chance to fix this. First, calm down and think it through. Apparently, he and Rias are supposed to be engaged or going to be engaged, but Rias doesn't want it, so they're not a thing yet. From his side, it looks like she cheated, but from hers, it's forced. And yes, with their conversation, it sounds like Rias already cheated on him with a human me. I mean, I, checked her virginity myself. So it couldn't be anyone else. Anyway, because of me, a potential engagement has turned into an affair, or at least a scandal. How do I know all this? I read enough manga. This is one of those scenes, the heroine doesn't want to marry, but is being forced to. Then I just need to kill him, right? Wait. You idiot, you're being emotional. Remember, even in those anime and manga, they didn't just kill the rival outright because it would create some political bullshit. And me? I'm weak in this department. All I can rely on is the experience I picked up from countless novels and manga. But then, what should I do? The only real problem here is that Rias's reputation might get stained. And that's something I'd absolutely hate. Which means, like it or not, I have to be directly involved and make it my problem instead of hers. The good part is that Rias's displeasure and disgust toward him aren't hidden at all. That means all I have to do is prove that I'm several times better than him in the eyes of her family. Right? I think. Probably. After all, if the story gets out that the evil demon was trying to force her to marry, and I saved her, then she won't have any stain on her reputation. It may even turn into something enjoyable to talk about, like forbidden love or something. They're devils, after all. So what matters most to them? Strength? Greed? Or maybe it's just about who can best satisfy their sins. While I was still running through scenarios in my head, Riser suddenly grabbed Rias by the collar. Don't fuck with me. You've already stained my reputation. Do you think I'll forgive you? You've gone too far this time. I waited, hoping you'd come to understand there was no escape, but you dared to cheat on me. That was it. I yanked a steel pipe straight out of my inventory and slammed it across his hand, knocking it away from her. You know what? Screw all that careful thinking. Forget politics, forget caution. Let's just show this world exactly what they're in for. Riser's burning eyes locked onto me, overflowing with hate. You, human, what do you think you're doing? Wait, his face twisted in rage as realization struck. You're that human. The one who slept with her. I'll kill you. I met his glare with a cold stare of my own, voice cutting like steel. Kill? Sure. Come at me. I'll slaughter you. But before either of us could move, Rias stepped in front of me, crimson hair swaying like a banner of defiance. Riser, if you so much as try to hurt him, I will declare war on you. The tension thickened instantly, so heavy it was as though the air itself would shatter under the weight. The entire room went silent, I couldn't even hear the others breathing. But I was too consumed by anger to care about the atmosphere. Then without warning, a magic circle lit up on the floor. From it, a figure emerged, the silver-haired maid, stepping forth with an expression as calm as ice. Lady Rias, Lord Riser, please calm yourselves. I won't be able to stand by if you both keep this up. For the sake of Lord Sertz's name and honor, I will not hold back. Grafia's voice was quiet, yet it carried an unshakable weight. Both Rias and Riser froze, their expressions stiffening immediately. It was clear now Grafia was someone to be feared. The flames that had been dancing across Riser's body flickered out, and with a deep sigh, he shook his head. I have no intention of crossing the woman praised as the strongest queen alive. And I certainly don't want to make enemies of those monsters who serve under Sertz's. So, Rias's brother truly was a powerful figure. I heard from her about him one time that he is Satan. Rias, too, allowed her crimson aura to fade, lowering her stance with reluctance. It seemed the worst had passed. Me? Well, I also calmed down for now. Seeing that both sides were standing down, Grafia continued, her expression as calm and unreadable as ever. His lordship, Lord Sertz's, along with the House of Phoenix, anticipated that matters could reach this point. These discussions were intended to be the final attempt at resolution. However, knowing the possibility of failure, they devised an alternative solution. Yet, Lady Rias, your defiance has altered the course. What exactly do you mean, Grafia? Rias asked, her voice wary. Grafia drew a measured breath before delivering the verdict. Originally, the decision was whether the engagement stood or was annulled. But because of your impulsiveness, great commotion has been stirred. Therefore, it has been decided that you will settle this matter with Lord Riser through a rating game. She paused only a moment before declaring the harsh condition. The loser must grant everything the winner demands. Rias's eyes widened, her composure faltering at last. This time, she was truly shaken. Then, Graphia's gaze shifted to me. She stepped forward with measured grace until she was standing directly before me. Lord Zevian, she said evenly, her silver eyes sharp as blades. Lord Surtsk has personally permitted you to join Lady Rias's team as an exception, given that you are the primary cause of the current situation and Lady Rias doesn't have a full set. Naturally, should you and Lady Rias emerge victorious, you too will be entitled to demand anything from the defeated. Her words sank into the tense silence of the room like a weight dropped into still water. Furthermore, she continued, her tone allowing no room for argument, everyone present must now agree on the time and date of the rating game. With that, she inclined her head slightly and stepped aside, her posture perfectly composed once more. She had said what needed to be said, and now the burden of choice rested upon us. As I was about to say, let's just get this over with right away, my words caught in my throat. Rias's expression stopped me cold. The look on her face, it wasn't anger, nor the prideful defiance she had shown earlier. No, it was pain. A raw, silent anguish, like someone had driven a blade straight into her heart. For a moment, I couldn't understand it at all. Why did she look like that? What had I missed? Without thinking, I moved closer, placing a steady hand on her shoulder to support her. Rias. I whispered, unsure if my voice even reached her. Riser looked at us with a mocking smile. Rias, don't fall into despair just yet. I haven't even started. I'll make you and your whole peerage my slaves and that human. His eyes narrowed at me, I'll torture him right in front of you. I'll make you regret ever staining my reputation and our family's honor. Every word dripped with venom. I almost charged at him then and there. My hand twitched, ready to pull out my giratina, ready to end his arrogance in blood. Even Akeno, Kiba, and others had taken their positions to attack. But what stopped me wasn't Graphia's presence or the risk of politics, it was Rias. She didn't react at all. The Rias I knew, the one who would always stand tall for her friends, who never tolerated anyone insulting those close to her, she would have already torn into him. But now, she just stood there. Silent. Unmoving. It was clear something weighed on her heart far more heavily than his insults. I forced myself to calm down, swallowing my rage. Let's do it tomorrow. At noon. That was all I said. Nothing more. Riser smirked arrogantly. Sure. If you all want to become my slaves this quickly, who am I to deny it? I didn't even spare him a glance. My anger could wait, Rias was more important. Graphia then stepped forward, her tone resolute. Then it is decided. A rating game will be held between Lady Rias Gremory and Lord Zevian against Lord Riser Fenix tomorrow at noon. She declared it like a verdict, sealing our fates. Riser chuckled as he prepared to leave. Then I'll see you tomorrow, Rias. Do struggle as much as you can, otherwise, it won't be fun. With that, his body was engulfed in flame, and he vanished through a magic circle. Graphia bowed her head toward us. Then, I will take my leave. I must begin preparations for tomorrow's rating game. And like him, she too disappeared through a glowing circle, leaving the room quiet at last. I gently cupped Rias's face with both hands, tilting her chin so she had no choice but to look into my eyes. What's wrong, Rias? At least tell me what's weighing on you. Her crimson eyes trembled, and to my shock, tears began to form. Zevian. I think my family has abandoned me. The words hit harder than I expected. I blinked, confused. What makes you think that? I asked softly. She sniffled, her voice breaking as she explained. Because, the rule is that the loser has to grant anything the winner demands. I stroked her silky hair, trying to soothe her. Don't worry, Rias. I'll make sure you win. But suddenly, she shoved me back, her voice trembling with frustration. You don't understand. I know we'll win. I know we definitely will because of you. Her conviction caught me off guard. I frowned, confused, but pressed her gently. Then, what's the problem? She bit her lip, her voice trembling. The problem isn't about winning or losing. It's that, my own family agreed to those rules even while expecting me to lose. They knew what it would mean, what I'd be forced to endure, and still, they accepted it. Her tears finally spilled, running down her cheeks. To them, my defeat was already a given, and they were willing to let me bear the consequences. That's why it feels like they've abandoned me. Hearing her words, I felt the weight of it too. I drew in a deep breath and locked my gaze on hers. Rias, it's too soon to jump to that conclusion. And even if it's true, remember, you're not alone. We're here for you. We're family, aren't we? So hold your head high. If they really did abandon you, then we'll just make them regret it. And when the time comes, we can build our own noble house together. I said it half to cheer her up, but every word came from the bottom of my heart. Rias's tears slowed, and a faint smile returned to her face. You're right. If that's how it is, then I'll just make them regret it. Or better yet, we'll make something greater. Another family, one that's truly ours. Will you stand with me, too, Akeno, Konako, Kiba, Asia? Konako's voice was small but firm. Of course, President. Kiba smiled confidently. You don't even need to ask. Akeno let out her usual teasing chuckle. Era. If you create a new family, does that mean I'm fired from my old job? I wouldn't want to be unemployed, so naturally, I'll stay by your side. Asia clenched her fists, her voice full of resolve. I'll do my best, Rias. I raised a hand, trying to steady the mood before it spiraled out of control. All right, let's calm down. We don't even have the full picture yet. Turning to Rias, I spoke gently but firmly. Rias, now that you've had a moment to breathe, tell us everything. Who exactly was that guy, and what's going on behind the scenes? No holding back. Rias's shoulders trembled for a moment, but then she straightened herself. That man was Riser Phoenix. My fiancé. Our marriage was arranged by our families, a pure-blood union to strengthen political ties. Her words hung heavy in the air. Even though I already suspected, hearing her confirm it was different. She continued with a bitter expression. Yesterday, I learned that the engagement ceremony had been moved up. Suddenly, the time I thought I still had, was gone. I panicked. And I chose to spend that night with you, Zevian. Her cheeks flushed slightly, though her tone stayed serious. I know it was reckless, but I didn't want my first time to be forced into some political deal. I wanted it to be my choice. Also, I don't regret it. I am glad my first time was with you. The room grew quiet. Everyone understood what that meant, even if no one said it aloud. I exhaled slowly, piecing it together. So in short, a noble pure-blood devil ended up with a human boy, and now the politics surrounding it are a ticking time bomb. Rias nodded grimly. Suddenly, the doors to the room burst open with a loud slam. Sana entered briskly, her peerage following closely behind. Her usual composed expression was tinged with uncharacteristic urgency. Rias, are you all right? She asked immediately, adjusting her glasses as her eyes scanned the room. I received notice that you and Riser will be facing each other in a rating game tomorrow. Without waiting for a response, she handed over a thick folder. I brought you detailed files records of every rating game Riser has participated in, along with the abilities and roles of his peerage members. This should give you an edge. Her voice was calm, but there was a subtle tremor beneath it. For Sana, that alone was enough to reveal how much she was worrying for her friend. A few hours passed as we dug through the files, memorizing every scrap of information about Riser's peerage. But one thing kept nagging at me. Finally, I leaned back and asked. By the way, what kind of family is this Phoenix? I don't remember them being part of the 72 pillars. Are they a lower-ranked house or something? While we're at it, where exactly does Gremory stand? No offense, Rias, but I only remember the really famous ones or, you know, personal favorites. Personal favorites mostly from Overgeared, but they didn't need to know that part. I added, I do know Citrise somewhere around the 11 to 15 mark. Rias gave me a steady look, her tone calm as always. No offense taken, Zevian. The Phoenix clan is Marquis rank, at 37. My Gremory clan is Duke rank, at 56. And the Citri family Sana's house is Prince rank, at 12. I whistled softly. So pretty high up, Sana. Sana, who'd been flipping through a thick binder of papers, stepped forward. If we were fighting any other high-ranking devil, this research might have been enough. A lot of work has gone into analyzing Riser's peerage. I blinked at her. Huh? Then what's the problem? Her sharp eyes lifted to mine. The problem is Riser himself, or more precisely, that he's a phoenix. She placed another book on the table, opening it to a full-page illustration of a great firebird, wings stretched wide, flames crackling across its feathers. Long ago, humans worshipped the phoenix as a creature tied to life and rebirth. Even now, myths remain in circulation. Its tears are said to heal any wound. Its blood, if consumed, can supposedly grant immortality. I squinted at the picture, then looked back at her. So, what? The Phoenix clan is just devils who chugged phoenix blood. Sana gave the faintest shrug. No one knows for sure. The Phoenix themselves claim descent from the mythical phoenix. Whatever the truth, their regenerative ability is no myth. Their immortality is the real danger. I leaned back, crossing my arms. For a moment, I thought carefully. Then, I smirked. Alright then, leave him to me. I've got a way around that. Rias's eyes narrowed slightly. What kind of method? I leaned forward, letting a sharp grin spread across my face. That's a secret. But don't worry. I'm 100% sure it'll work. I turned my eyes toward Asia. Asia, I've got a job for you. Can you make 16 holy crosses by tomorrow? Her eyes widened, but then she clenched her fists with determination. I'll do my best to help everyone. I gave her an approving nod before shifting to Konako. Konako, go with her. Help her gather materials, whatever she needs. But be careful, you're a devil, remember. Konako gave a curt nod, and the two of them quietly left the room. Next, I turned to Kiba. Kiba, you. I waved a hand vaguely. Go get victory celebration supplies. Before he could even react, I had already brushed past him and hurried straight to Akeno. And you, Akeno, make us some tea. Oh, and for me? Coffee. Make it quick. Akeno covered her lips with her hand, amusement flickering in her eyes. Kiba, on the other hand, looked like he was still processing whether I was being serious. As soon as they dispersed, I dropped onto the sofa, pulled out my phone, and booted up Subway Surfers. The room fell silent. When I looked up, Rias, Sana, and her peerage were all staring at me like I'd lost my mind. Suddenly, the door burst open. A blonde guy strode in with a few girls trailing behind him. President Sana, we're done setting up the equipment, he announced proudly. Then his gaze landed on me. His face went pale, eyes widening in shock. Xavian? Is that you? I blinked. He stiffened, clearly offended by my blank look. Hey! Don't tell me you forgot me. We were in middle school together. I was a year above you. How could you not remember? Honestly, there were way too many seniors back then. But wait. That face, that tone, oh. Memory unlocked. You're that guy. Genji Sajiro. The fearless pooper. Nuu. Don't say it out loud. He clutched his head, crouching on the floor like a child, while everyone else in the room stared in total confusion. I shrugged. In middle school, he was one of the guys who tried to bully me. Everyone's eyes snapped to him with disgust. Hey! Don't just say it like that, he wailed, waving his arms. It was a dare. A dare from the others, okay. And my name is Saji Genshiro. Not Genji Sajiro. He really thought his name mattered more than his title? Please. Sure, whatever. But I'll never forget your true title, the fearless pooper. He shrieked, burying his head in his arms like the words physically hurt him. Yep. Still traumatized. Sana sighed and adjusted her glasses, then flicked her fingers. Her peerage girls quickly restrained him, gagging his protests with a cloth. Xavian, what exactly happened between you two? He's my new pawn, so I want to know what kind of person I'm dealing with. I leaned back, ignoring Saji's desperate glare, his muffled MMPH begging me not to spill. Well, I began, middle school had its share of bullies. Some tried to make me their punching bag, but I dealt with them without violence, of course. I paused, smirking at the memory. This guy came to test me. For 3 days, I played along as his errand boy. By the 4th day, he thought he owned me. At lunch, he demanded I get him some juice. I took a slow sip of the coffee Akeno had just set down, savoring the moment. So I spiked it with laxatives. For his health, you understand. Everyone leaned in. I made sure to deliver it right before the lunch period ended. He yelled at me for being late while downing it. 5 minutes later, he bolted out of the classroom. I didn't see the fallout myself, but the rumors spread fast. During lecture, he lost control. Right there in class. That was the day he became a legend, the fearless pooper. He vanished for months after. I chuckled, shaking my head. And now here he is, alive and well. Some legends really do rise from the ashes. Everyone in the room burst out laughing, some pounding the table, others wiping tears from their eyes. Poor Saji couldn't handle it, he'd already passed out from sheer humiliation. I leaned back on the sofa, watching the chaos with a calm sip of my coffee. Well, there were plenty like him back in the day. Bullies, idiots, wannabe tough guys. And that was before I even had my system. Too bad kids that age are stupid. Honestly, they're easy. I had one thing they didn't, the experience of an adult. A perk of reincarnation. And tell me, how could a so-called scary brat ever hope to bully an adult who knows the game? Impossible. I just gave them a little preview of how the adult world really works. Dirty tricks, mind games, a taste of humiliation they weren't prepared for. Violence? Never needed it. Trauma was way more effective. By the time I was done with them, every bully who came after me learned one thing: never underestimate someone who plays smarter, not harder. Do I think they'll think twice before bullying anyone else? No. 100 times more? Not enough. 1,000? Still not enough. But that's the moral, isn't it? Kids, never fear bullies. Don't wait for teachers to swoop in like superheroes. Play it smart. Twist the situation. Outsmart them. In the end, they're easier to deal with than you think if you play your cards right. Next day. We gathered in the club room, everyone ready for the game. Apparently, Sana had been given charge of the broadcasting. When I heard that, I asked her for one thing to make sure as many people as possible could watch. The details didn't matter to me, so I left them up to her. That was enough. With that, word of this rating game would spread far and wide, even if not everyone watched it live. Everyone was gathered, except for Asia. Since she wasn't part of Rias's peerage or directly tied to the matter, she stayed back with Sana. Kiba was ready in his own way. His hands and wrists were wrapped in padded guards, and armor-like coverings protected his shins. His sword rested casually against the wall within reach, gleaming faintly. Konako sat quietly, flipping through a book with the same focus she might have given a battlefield. Fingerless gloves, those favored by martial artists, covered her small hands. On her childlike face, though, was an eerily serious expression. Akeno and Rias sat side by side on the sofa, sipping tea with refined grace. As expected of the two great ladies, their composure never cracked. And me? I was in my chair, phone in hand, grinding Clash of Clans and pushing trophies like my life depended on it. 10 minutes before the match, the magic circle at the center of the room flared to life, and Grafia stepped out in her usual, immaculate manner. Have you completed your preparations? The match will begin in 10 minutes. She announced, her voice cool and unwavering. We all rose as she continued her explanation. When the time comes, you will be transported to the arena through your magic circle. The battle will take place in a neutral alternate dimension created specifically for this match. You may unleash your full power without restraint. Once the game concludes, the field itself will be discarded, so do not concern yourselves with collateral damage. I nodded slowly. So that's how it works. An artificial battlefield. Honestly, I didn't even know devils could do something like that. I always thought that sort of trick creating pocket dimensions was more of a ghost or yokai specialty. Grafia's voice cut through my drifting thoughts. Representatives from both noble houses will be following this rating game by way of live broadcast. She paused, her eyes landing squarely on Rias. In addition, His Lordship the Demon King Lucifer will be observing. Do keep that in mind. Whoa! There's a real Demon King in this world. Then that must mean, somewhere out there, there's a hero or a heroine, too. Rias, however, froze for an entirely different reason. My brother? I see, so he'll be there, too. Oh, right. I'd almost forgotten her brother was one of the four Satans. Lucifer's successor. A big deal. And yet, he still hadn't stepped in to help her? Grafia's tone never wavered. It's almost time. Everyone, please step into the magic circle. We gathered at the center of the room. Once you are transported to the arena, you will not return until the match is concluded, she explained. So, no coming back until one side had completely crushed the other. That was, a bit grim. The sigil etched into the circle shifted, glowing brighter and reshaping itself into an unfamiliar crest. Not Phoenix. Not Gremory. Something else. Maybe a custom design, just for this match. That was my last thought before the light swallowed us whole and dragged us into the battlefield. I opened my eyes. Huh? I blinked, tilting my head in confusion. We were still in the club room. Had the magic circle failed? Anyone would have been confused, right? But strangely, nobody else looked even a little surprised. Everyone was calm, collected, like this was exactly what they'd expected. Grafia, however, was nowhere to be seen. Did she get teleported alone or something? Before I could dwell on it, her voice echoed around us, loud and clear like a school announcement. Welcome, everyone. I, Grafia, servant to the House of Gremory, will act as arbiter for today's rating game between the House of Gremory and the House of Phoenix. The tone was flat and professional, but it carried easily across the entire space. In the name of His Lordship Xerxes Lucifer, I will ensure the fairness and impartiality of today's proceedings. Based on Lady Rias and Lord Riser's mutual wishes, the battlefield will be a replica of the school that Lady Rias attends in the human world Kiao Academy. Ah, now it made sense. This wasn't the real club room. It was a replica. A separate pocket dimension, set up to look identical to Kyo Academy. Honestly, for a guy like me who's watched way too much anime, putting the pieces together was child's play. Both teams have been transported to an area that will serve as their respective home bases. Lady Rias, your home base will be the club room of the Occult Research Club in the old school building. Lord Riser, yours will be located in the student council room in the new school building. All pawns, please proceed to the immediate vicinity of the opposing team's home base when using a promotion. And there it was. The official tutorial speech. So boring. Wasn't there a skip button somewhere? Let me mash the next option already. Everyone, please put these communication devices in your ears, Akeno said, handing out earphone-like transceivers to each of us. I popped mine in, and Rias's voice immediately came through, crisp and clear. This is how we'll coordinate on the battlefield. Whoa, remote commands straight into my ear. Now that's an op item. Basically, a built-in team chat. Graphia's voice followed, carrying the weight of finality. It's time. The match will continue until there is a victor, or until dawn in the human world. Let the game begin. Ding dong dang dong. The school bell rang out across the campus, solemn and sharp. Guess that was the official start signal. Game on. First things first, we need to eliminate Riser's pawns. We'll be in trouble if all 8 of them can promote into queens. Rias said coolly from her seat on the sofa. Her voice carried no hesitation, just calculated precision. She sat there with perfect posture, crimson hair cascading like a queen awaiting the first move of the game. Across from her, Akeno moved with practiced grace, quietly setting about preparing tea, as if this were nothing more than a casual afternoon. The contrast between their calmness and the war that was about to unfold was eerie. It looked like they already had a solid plan. Anyway, Rias, let me go first. I've got something in mind, but for it to work, I need to move ahead. Rias studied me for a moment, her crimson eyes narrowing ever so slightly before she gave a quiet nod. Fine. You'll take point. But be careful. Always am, I said with a small grin, returning the nod before stepping out of the club room. The heavy door clicked shut behind me, and just like that, the first move was mine. The moment I stepped out of the old building, I pressed the transceiver. By the way, Rias, you do realize there's no point in just winning this match, right? Her voice came through, confused but edged with suspicion. What? What do you mean, Xavian? I spoke slowly, carefully, like explaining something to a child. You see, defeating this one clown won't be enough. Even if we win, other noble families will come crawling out of their holes, demanding duels, making claims on your hand. Isn't that right? There was a pause. Then, in a low, cold tone almost as if she feared the answer, Rias said, Xavian. What are you planning? A smirk tugged at the corner of my lips. My voice dropped, dark, deliberate. If we defeat him piece by piece, we'll be looked down on. But if I end this in one move... The ground rumbled beneath my feet as an oppressive black aura leaked out of me, coiling into the air like smoke from a dying world. The entire old school building trembled as a dark barrier swallowed it whole, cutting it off from the rest of the battlefield. Then no one will ever dare mess with us again. Before she could respond, I plucked the transceiver from my ear and tossed it into my inventory. Silence. Only the pulse of my own shadow remained, heavy and suffocating, waiting to be unleashed. I took a deep, steadying breath and stepped forward. Each step felt heavy, like the weight of everything about to unfold pressed down on me. Partner, come out. It's time for our debut. I said, voice low but firm. From the shadow at my feet, a small, chibi-like Giratina materialized, its origin form shimmering faintly in the dim light. It hovered in the air before me, looking almost playful, but there was a spark of awareness in its eyes. Get ready, mate. I'm not letting anyone look down on us, I whispered. As if understanding every word, Giratina began to rise. At first, it was small, but with every inch it ascended, its form expanded, growing denser. Dark, pulsing aura began to coil around it, filling the space until it stretched toward the sky, massive and overwhelming. Golden scales glinted through the obsidian black haze, casting an otherworldly glow. Around it, blue energy orbs floated, circling like moons caught in a storm of power, radiating an ominous, almost divine light. The air around us thickened, humming with raw energy. This was no longer a battle of humans or devils, it was going to be a one-sided massacre. Giratina descended gently behind me, yet the air around us seemed to convulse under its presence. The moment its claws touched the ground, a gust erupted, whipping through the arena with the force of a hurricane, shaking the very foundation of the alternate space. I reached up and gripped the soul resonance crystal hanging around my neck, closing my eyes to focus entirely on the bond it shared with Giratina. The connection ignited. Suddenly, a storm of black aura erupted from my feet, spiraling outward like a maelstrom. Reverse black lightning crackling with otherworldly intensity shot skyward, tearing the fabric of the arena as if the space itself were being shredded. Blue energy orbs around Giratina's form flared violently, spinning faster, circling in chaotic orbits. The air vibrated with a low hum from the raw power emanating from us. This wasn't just a transformation. It was a declaration. We were here, and anyone who dared oppose us would feel the weight of an outer god-level force. Suddenly, everything seemed to freeze, as if time itself had been caught in the grip of our aura. The world around me blurred and stilled, yet inside, everything roared to life. I closed my eyes, feeling the connection intensify, a pulse that started in my chest and radiated outward, threading through every fiber of my being. The bond with Giratina wasn't just stronger, it consumed me, melding our consciousnesses into one. A surge of power rolled over me, cold yet electrifying, and I could feel Giratina's essence intertwining with my own. The world outside no longer existed. There was only us. Then, with a sudden, almost cruel precision, the 3-minute countdown began. 3 minutes to unleash everything, to transcend limits, to carve our presence into this battlefield. And I was ready. I drew a deep, steadying breath. Time itself seemed to stretch, slow, as if the world had fallen under the sway of Giratina's distortion. Every heartbeat, every thought, was magnified, precise. And then I acted. From my fingers, streams of glowing symbols and glyphs shot into the air like liquid light, wrapping around the battlefield. They were lines of code, not mere writing, but the very syntax of existence itself. Reality trembled as I typed the commands in midair, my voice whispering the logic that bent nature. For element in battlefield. If element.type equals holy. Element.override, holy. Propagate, target equals opponents, effect equals 16. Compile, battlefield. Execute. The code didn't just run. It compiled the world. Glitches appeared as terrain shifted, the natural laws warping like corrupt files being rewritten. Shadows screamed as they were overridden with pure light, the ground glowing with sacred energy. The sky fractured and realigned, colors bleeding into one another before settling into a halo of holy radiance. The battlefield had become my canvas, every line of code a stroke of divine distortion. Rias and her peerage were safely cocooned inside the barrier, untouched by the overwhelming surge. Outside, Riser's team flinched as the holy element swept through them, their senses assaulted by the raw rewrite of reality. I needed to do this carefully. According to Giratina, if I miscalculated even slightly, Rias and the others could get caught in the distortion by accident. Precision was everything. The coding display was just for show, as it was my way of defining targets, of telling reality itself what to affect and what to leave untouched. One wrong line, one misstep, and the entire battlefield could collapse, dragging everything into chaos. Oh! The thrill! Thankfully, Giratina was handling the translation. Her consciousness flowed with mine, converting my intentions into the language of the world itself, ensuring the spell or code, however you wanted to call it, executed perfectly. With everything locked in, the stage was set. The battlefield hummed, holy energy saturating the air, and I felt the tension coil like a spring. It was time to strike. I first moved into the gymnasium. The older woman in a Chinese dress, the twin sisters, and the petite girl were already waiting, tense and ready. Did I remember them from the files I'd studied? Not really. Did it matter? Not at all. After all, if I didn't even care about the dust under my shoes when I walked outside, why would I care about them? I was a shadow in motion, a predator moving through prey. Before any of them could react, my palm shot forward. The sound of cracking bone echoed sharply, her lower jaw shattered under the impact. I grabbed a holy cross from my pocket and forced it into her mouth, locking it tight. Her muffled scream sent chills through the air, but it barely reached me. From the shadows beneath me, jagged spikes erupted like black thorns, piercing her limbs. She struggled, but the spikes held her in place with a grotesque elegance, twisting and embedding like living chains. The twins attacked in unison, chainsaw roaring. The metal shrieked as I caught it mid-air, twisting and crushing it effortlessly, sparks flying. Their eyes widened in horror. I moved with deadly precision. One by one, I broke their jaws and forced crosses into their mouths, each motion synchronized with shadow spikes lancing from the ground to pin limbs. The petite girl lunged from behind, but 4 spikes shot from the darkness, striking her legs and arms with surgical accuracy. She screamed a sound of pure panic before the cross silenced her cry. The room was filled with a mix of muffled screams and the faint scent of blood. The shadows writhed like living entities, obeying every whim of my will. Even through the carnage, the rules of the game governed me, no unnecessary death, only immobilization. Every strike, every spike, every placement of a cross was precise like coding reality itself, executing commands that twisted the battlefield into my control. In seconds, the gymnasium had become a tableau of fear and discipline. They were alive, yet utterly powerless testaments to the overwhelming presence of my power fused with Giratina's essence. I stepped back, surveying my work. The battlefield was mine, a chessboard of living pieces. The game had begun. Time remaining till the fusion gets undone, 1:49 minute. Before wasting any time, I teleported into the forest directly in front of the three girls. The holy field had already begun to weigh on them, sapping their will, twisting fear into their eyes. I didn't hesitate. Shadow spikes erupted from the ground, piercing limbs with surgical precision. All three shrieked, the sound swallowed by the oppressive aura of the holy field. As they writhed, I broke their jaws one by one, forcing holy crosses into their mouths from my inventory. Their screams were instantly muted, leaving only silent, desperate contortions of pain. 7 down. 8 more to go before I reach riser. In an instant, I appeared at the athletic track, where the remaining girls were moving forward. So that was his plan, huh? Make it look like he was setting up flankers, when in reality he'd sent his whole army in. A clever feint at least on paper. Honestly, if it came down to strategy alone, Rias might have lost this one. But plans crumble before absolute strength. And their enemy, unfortunately for them, was me. The holy field was already doing its work. Their skin sizzled faintly, like flesh too close to a nuclear reactor core. Breathing had become ragged, shallow, every gulp of air a struggle. If this kept up for an hour, they'd be nothing but broken husks, organs failing one by one, agony stretching into eternity. And when I impaled their limbs, the holy energy would seep directly into their bodies through the open wounds. A shortcut to heaven. Get it? Devils, drowning in holy power. Going to heaven. The opposite of hell for them. Not funny? TCH tough crowd. I lunged at the mage-looking girl. Her staff snapped like brittle wood in my grip. Before she could even gasp, my knee shot upward, smashing into her jaw with a sickening crack. Her jaw twisted unnaturally, teeth scattering as blood spilled down her chin. I shoved a holy cross from my inventory between her broken teeth, forcing it deep into her mouth as black spikes erupted from my shadow, piercing her limbs and nailing her to the ground. The look of horror that rippled across the others' faces was almost refreshing. 7 left. I glanced at the mental countdown. 71 seconds left. That was all the time I needed. The sky above me rippled like liquid obsidian, twisting and warping until 2 colossal blue eyes opened, glowing with deranged insanity. The heavens themselves cracked wide, the fractures curling upward into a grotesque, manic smile. A crushing black pressure descended without warning. The air screamed, space groaned, and every single one of Riser's servants buckled under the weight. Bones snapped, bodies slammed into the dirt, pinned helplessly against the field by nothing more than sheer force. And then came the spikes. From every shadow, from every corner of the battlefield, jagged black spears erupted in a storm, piercing flesh and bone, nailing each of them into the ground. Their shrieks tore through the night until I silenced them. One by one, I stalked forward, shattering jaws with brutal precision. Blood poured, teeth scattered, and into every broken mouth I rammed a holy cross from my inventory, gagging their screams into muffled, pitiful sobs as they writhed beneath the holy corruption burning through their veins. Among the writhing bodies, one stood out. A blonde with twin drill curls, the kind of girl who looked every inch the pampered princess. Tears streamed down her face as holy corruption ate through her flesh, but unlike the others, her wounds kept sealing themselves with bursts of golden red flame. She was healing. Her regeneration tried to knit bone and muscle together as quickly as the spikes shredded them apart, but the holy field was relentless. The more she fought to recover, the more agony flooded her body. If I remembered correctly, this was Riser's sister. Figures. For her, I made an exception. I twisted the spikes inside her chest, snapping her ribs apart from within. Shadow bone grew in their place, locking her entire torso into a black, spiked cage. She convulsed, eyes wide with unbearable pain. Did I feel bad? Yes. Would I stop? No. I couldn't afford to. Not with someone like her. Her kind of resolve, the rip your own limbs off and come back burning protagonist moment, was the sort of cliché I had to kill before it started. Still, there was something strange. With Giratina's power coiled through me, my vision pierced deeper than flesh. It was like having X-ray sight, only sharper, sharper than reality itself. I saw her bones. I saw her soul. And buried inside her heart, I saw it a chess piece. A tiny obsidian bishop, fused into the flesh of her beating organ. A faint tether stretched out from it, a thread of shadow winding all the way toward the new school building. Riser's anchor. The evil pieces. They weren't just resurrection tools. Not anymore. The distortion revealed what they really did. Subtle chains, gradual shifts in loyalty, affection, obedience. The tiniest nudges, stacking over time until you weren't your own person anymore. A slow, invisible corruption. I exhaled, relief washing through me. So it's true. The devils are evil. Maybe Rias and Sana had no idea. Maybe they were victims too. But whoever forged these pieces knew exactly what they were doing. I stepped toward the mage girl. Her eyes widened as my hand phased into ghostly transparency. With deliberate precision, I pressed it into her chest, slipping through skin and bone without leaving a mark. Her scream tore the air silent, broken when my fingers closed around the piece lodged in her heart. I ripped it free. Her body convulsed violently, spasms racking her frame as the pawn pulsed in my hand. And then, with a final shudder, the distortion unraveled her devilhood. The wings of magic burned away. Her aura shattered. She was human again. I held the piece aloft, feeling its foul energy vibrate against my palm. The power of distortion, it was far too overpowered. And for once, I was glad. Now that I had confirmed it, my distortion could strip the evil pieces out and turn devils back into humans. There was no more reason to waste time with pawns. I clenched the writhing chess piece in my hand until it cracked, dissolving into black motes that the field devoured. 8, no, all of them were done. Only one remained. The real target. Riser Fenix. My lips curled into a grim smile as I straightened, Giratina's shadow towering over me like a god passing judgment. I had no reason to chase scraps anymore. The experiment was over. The proof was clear. Now it was time to crush the king. With a single step, the wholly distorted field warped around me, space folding as if the world itself wanted me delivered to him. Riser. I muttered, my voice low, almost swallowed by the black winds. Let's see if your immortality still means anything against me. Time remaining till the fusion gets undone, 58 seconds. Riser's face twisted in frustration and disbelief, veins throbbing as he finally snapped. What would a lowly human like you know? We're talking about the noble pure blood for the sake of. His words cut off mid-sentence. I had more than enough. In one swift motion, my hand swiped across his throat. There was no hesitation. Flesh and sinew parted like paper, his vocal cords shredded and replaced seamlessly by the final holy cross from my inventory. Silence claimed him, and in that void, the holy spikes I had summoned earlier shifted violently. They tore through his arm bones, scaling upward to embed themselves in his ribcage, replacing each bone with jagged, dark shadow constructs. Then, my hand plunged into his skull. Memories poured into me, years of knowledge and plans, of fears and arrogance. The sheer volume would have inflicted pain in any ordinary mind. Yet, with Giratina fused to me, the torrent was a whisper, manageable, and all-consuming. I absorbed it all. Every scheme, every betrayal, every hidden weakness. The seeds were planted. The battlefield and the future were now entirely mine. And then the fusion ended. Giratina shrank back to her chibi form, floating lazily around me as if nothing had happened, her golden black aura dimmed but still pulsating with latent power. Now, before I began executing my plan, I had something to say to him. I yanked his head up by the hair, forcing his trembling eyes to meet mine. The weight of my stare was madness itself, cold, merciless, and burning with something far beyond hatred. My face turned into an emotionless expression. I am not a lowly vermin like you, I began, my voice dripping with venom, so why would I ever lower myself to comprehend your pitiful squeaks and squeals? You dare call yourself noble? You dare cloak yourself in pride and tradition? You're no noble. You're a parasite. A bloated, noxious tick feeding on this world's arteries. You suck and suck, feasting on its lifeblood, and once its blood dry, you'll stagger away to the next host, whining about how the world failed you when in truth, it is you who rot the world from within. You refuse to labor. You refuse to bleed. You refuse to earn. Yet you twist your own uselessness into some kind of twisted virtue, making your flaws everyone else's burden. And when society tolerates you, bends for you, suffers you, what do? You spit in its face. You paint yourself as the victim. You scream persecution while you revel in your own persecution of others. You prey on the weak, you torment the powerless, because in the emptiness of your soul, abusing others is the only flicker of satisfaction you can feel. And when that cruelty finally corners you, when the consequences close and you don't face them like a man. No. You cower. You hide behind the rotting curtain of your family name. You scream about your noble duty, you invoke your bloodline as if it absolves you. You wrap your crimes in silk words, you crown your cowardice as responsibility, and then you dare to call it all for the good of the world. You disgust me. My expressionless face suddenly started laughing, teeth bared in a grotesque parody of laughter. My voice cracked between tones, a mad hymn of condemnation. You're no noble flame, riser. You're ash pretending to burn. You're decay dressed in gold. You're not given wings. Strip away the power your family gave you, and what's left? A coward too weak to stand, too pitiful to fight, too hollow to even exist on his own. You are nothing. And yet, you still look down on others. I leaned close until my breath was fire on his ear, my whisper colder than death itself. But don't worry, parasite. I will give you meaning. I will carve it into your body. And every scream you choke down with that holy cross will be the hymn of your truth. You will never rise again. Not as a noble, not as a devil, not even as ash. My eyes glowed with insanity, my words spilling in a feverish crescendo. You are the bottom of the bottom, riser Phoenix. Vermin gnaws, parasites drink, ticks suck, but you? You don't even deserve the title of pest. You're the void left after the pest is killed. Emptiness. Worthlessness. Dead air wearing a crown of fire. My hand crept toward his face, fingers twitching with anticipation. Slowly, deliberately, I pressed them against his eyes. His body jerked, but the holy crosses and spikes kept him locked in place. Did you know, riser? I whispered, my tone soft, almost nostalgic. My fingertips began to sink in, meeting the delicate resistance of flesh. There was a time when I used to dream of magic. Just a kid, powerless, staring at stories, wishing I had spells of my own. But I wasn't born into a mage family. I wasn't born into any supernatural bloodline. I was just a nobody. His muffled screams rattled in his throat as blood welled up, dripping down his face and pattering onto the ruined floor. His flames flickered wildly, healing desperately, burning furiously. But my fingers dug deeper, inch by inch, as if I were peeling away the very illusion of his superiority. So, do you know what I did instead? I thought. I obsessed. I imagined every power, every gift, every ability I'd never have, and then I asked myself how to break them. Every single one. Every invincible shield, every endless flame, every immortal body. His breath hitched. I could feel the wet pop as my fingers sank further into the soft, trembling sockets. His healing fire hissed, sputtering, trying to push me out, but it was too slow. Far too slow. Immortality, I said calmly, almost academically. Yours, in particular, was always one of my favorites to dissect. Everyone sees it as absolute. An unending flame, a body that can never be destroyed. But me. I chuckled, a low, twisted sound. I saw the cracks in it. His body convulsed violently as my nails scraped against bone. I leaned closer, speaking into his ear like a teacher unveiling a secret lesson. Say I rip your heart out. You'll grow another. Simple, right? But what happens if, before it can regenerate, I put something else in its place? A stone. A nail. A curse. Anything that denies your body the space to rebuild? Then your immortality isn't healing its torment. An endless loop of pain. A body trying to repair itself but failing again and again. That's not eternal life, riser. I grinned. That's eternal agony. With a wet, tearing sound, I dug deeper, and finally his eyes came free, dangling between my blood-soaked fingers. He let out a strangled, broken scream, muffled by the cross in his jaw, his flames surging like wildfire, trying to undo the impossible. But his hope turned to despair when I tossed the eyes to the ground. The flames swallowed them instantly, reducing them to ash. And then, with cruel precision, I pressed a smooth, cold stone into the hollow where his right eye had been. The flesh convulsed around it, trying to reject it, trying to heal over it. But the distortion wouldn't allow it. His body twisted in rebellion, stuck between regenerating and being denied the chance. Feel that? I whispered, tilting my head, almost tenderly. That's the gift of your immortality, riser. You won't die. You won't rest. You'll just keep healing into failure, forever. Then, suddenly, an idea struck me. The thought slithered into my mind like a spark of cruel inspiration. I tilted my head, watching him writhe, and for the first time, my voice carried a strangely innocent lilt, almost cheerful. Riser, I said sweetly, I have good news. At first, I was going to torture you a little bit and then kill you. That was the plan, simple and clean. He froze for a moment, eyes widening or at least trying to, with the stones lodged in his one socket as if he wasn't sure he'd heard me right. So I leaned closer, letting each word drip from my tongue with deliberate clarity. But now I've decided I won't. I smiled, almost kindly. Riser, I won't kill you. Not you. Not your peerage. I kept that kind, innocent smile plastered on my face as I leaned closer, my tone soft and reassuring, like I was explaining something to a child. I won't kill any of you, Riser. Do you get it? Not you, not your peerage. You'll all live. For a moment, I let the words hang in the air, like a gentle breeze carrying false hope. Then, slowly, my expression shifted, softening into something almost regretful. But what should I do, Riser? I asked, my voice trembling with mock remorse. Because I clearly remember you bragging about how you'd make Rias and her peerage your slaves, while torturing me in front of her. Remember that? I reached out and patted his head gently, condescendingly like a master placating a broken dog. So, I'll return the favor. I'll make your whole peerage my slaves. Think of it as a reward for your efforts, okay? His breath hitched, his broken body straining against the spikes pinning him down, but the holy cross wedged into his throat ensured nothing but muffled whimpers came out. I continued, still in that conversational, almost friendly tone. You know, I love guys like you. So arrogant, so transparent. If I weren't human, you'd have announced your surrender 100s of times by now. But because I'm just a lowly human in your eyes, that thought never even crossed your mind. My hand drifted to his throat, tapping lightly against the holy cross embedded there. That's why I went through the trouble of rendering all of you speechless. Did you like that part, Riser? Losing even the ability to scream. The grin that spread across my face was wide, deranged, my words now spilling out with manic delight. I'll make sure every single one of your precious peerage suffers daily. I'll treat them as less than sewage, not even worth the dirt under my shoes. I leaned closer, my eyes gleaming with twisted amusement. And your sister, your precious little princess with her pretty blonde curls. I'll treat her the best. I'll make her my special toy, my favorite slave. His entire body trembled violently at that, but it only fueled my grin further. Would I actually do it? No. Too much effort, too much hassle. Torture was work, and I didn't care enough. But saying it? Watching the terror and agony rip through his soul at just the thought? That was effortless and super fun. Of course, I'd still make them my slaves, just not for pleasure. For labor. To work for me endlessly, without wages, without rest, without dignity. That was more than enough. I gave Riser one last condescending pat on the head, like a master humoring his pet. Wait for a moment, okay? I'll end this match, and then you can watch as your peerage, your precious sister included, become my slaves. With that, I stood and left him broken in the dirt. Giratina slithered alongside me, her aura already stretching wide like a curtain of shadow. Now it was time for the real plan. After all, devils are still devils. If I don't give them a firm warning, one they'll never forget, they'll repeat the same cycle again and again. Giratina moved exactly as I had instructed during our fusion. With each step I took, the air grew heavier, darker, more suffocating. My presence alone was daunting, or at least I hoped, but cloaked in Giratina's aura? It became something monstrous. Something divine and horrifying at once. At last, I reached the shattered heart of the new school building, the arena reduced to rubble and dust. There, Giratina manifested a throne from writhing ghostly matter, jagged and dripping with darkness, yet unmistakably regal. I sat upon it, leaning back like a sovereign claiming dominion over broken subjects. Behind me, Giratina's form expanded until she towered like a nightmare-given flesh, her whole body cloaked in swirling darkness. Only her two colossal, glowing blue eyes remained visible, unblinking, piercing, eternal. She stood behind me like a guardian dragon of the abyss. The stage was set. The entire devil community was watching. At least, that's what I hoped. Wait. It was being broadcast, right? What if the angle's wrong? What if all they're seeing right now is Giratina's giant back blocking me completely? I swear, if my big speech ends up as nothing but background audio while she hogs the whole frame, TCH, that'll be embarrassing. I kept my expression composed, regal, terrifying. Outwardly, I was a figure of madness and authority seated upon a throne of shadows. Inwardly, though, I prayed to every power in existence that the camera work wasn't screwing me over. Ugh, damn it. Now that the rush had ebbed, now that my blood cooled even a fraction, I felt it. The adrenaline was gone. And with its absence came the backlash. My stomach twisted violently, a churning knot I couldn't shake. I swallowed hard, forcing bile back down. Don't get me wrong, I have no regrets about what I did. Torture, cruelty, breaking them down piece by piece, no problem there. But tearing out an eye with my bare hands? The slick pop, the wet warmth on my fingers. Ugh. Gross. Just disgusting. It had been so easy in the moment when my mind was fully immersed, when Giratina's power wrapped me in madness and purpose. But now that I'd stopped moving, stopped fighting, the images replayed with clarity. The sounds. The texture. It all came crashing back. If anyone saw my face right now, they'd think I was trembling in shame or weakness. But no one would. Because they couldn't. The black aura shrouding me was my salvation. To them, I wasn't a young man with a churning stomach, I was a walking silhouette of black fire, a human-shaped abyss with only two unblinking eyes staring out. They couldn't see me falter. They couldn't see me gag. I drew a slow, silent breath, steadying myself. The king upon the throne remained untouchable. The boy inside just wanted to throw up. Anyway. I forced myself to steady. No more hesitation. No more weakness. This was the final step. I had already shown them I could fight in close quarters, that I could dismantle their warriors with my bare hands. I had already proven I could be more merciless than the devils themselves, that cruelty was just another tool I could wield without flinching. But now it was time to brand this lesson into their very souls. To show them that crossing me wouldn't end in a clean fight or a glorious death. Only in endless suffering. A wide, manic smile tore across my face, stretching until it was less a human expression and more a primal madness. The aura around me warped, twisting like a storm caught in a cage, mirroring that smile, carving my insanity into the very air. I let it spread, let it infect the battlefield, until no one watching could mistake it. After all, I wasn't some pawn in their game. I wasn't some human they could sneer down at. I was the demon god standing before them. Average mid-class devil's POV. My name is Patrick. I'm just another face in Lilith, the capital of the underworld. Life down here isn't exactly filled with joy. Work, obligations, endless politics between noble houses. It gets stale. So when it comes to entertainment, there's really only one thing that gets our blood pumping: rating games. The pride of devils, the stage where nobility strut their power. This one was supposed to be no different. Another arranged match, another clash between noble houses. Nothing special. At least, that's what I thought. This time, there was a twist: a human was part of it. Normally, such a thing would be unthinkable. A human in a rating game? That's like letting cattle join a gladiator match. But rumors spread that this human was the very reason Lady Rias opposed her engagement, so an exception was made. Not that it mattered. Humans are prey. That's the natural order. Whether he stood in the match or not, the result was already decided. Lord Riser Fenix against Lady Rias Gremory. The outcome was as good as written. Riser, experienced, with his full set of peerage members. Lady Rias, young, untested, and not even with a complete household. It was like comparing a veteran to a child still learning to walk. When the game began, Riser's peerage moved with confidence, their formations polished from past matches. Everything was unfolding as expected. And then Lady Rias. She did what? She sent the human out alone. My jaw dropped. The tavern I was watching in erupted in confusion. Was she insane? The whispers spread like wildfire. I'd heard the rumors, of course, that Lady Rias had betrayed Lord Riser before the engagement ceremony, choosing some pathetic human as her lover instead. And looking at this, it all made sense. She really sent him out first. Her lover. A human. Alone. Had she lost her mind? Does she want to get rid of him instead? Is this some twisted ploy? Some kind of underhanded politics we common folk can't even begin to grasp? That was the only explanation that made sense. Otherwise, why throw away a piece so early, especially the one she supposedly staked her honor for? The tavern around me buzzed with speculation, each voice louder than the last. But before we could come to any conclusion, something happened that froze all of us in place. The old school building the one Lady Rias and her peerage had been stationed in was suddenly consumed by a black barrier. Not the usual Fenix flames, not devilish warding, but a suffocating, pitch-black dome that swallowed everything inside. The moment it formed, the feed from Lady Rias's side cut out. What the? Someone muttered. My first thought was, did Lord Riser's side use some kind of artifact? Maybe a trick to force Rias's team out, or to cover a finishing move. But then, from the human's own shadow, something began to stir. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the camera. A ripple of darkness. But no, something crawled out, gleaming with golden scales that caught the light, even as a choking black aura coiled around it. The sight alone sent a shiver running down my spine. And this was just through the screen. Those in the actual arena. I can't imagine the pressure they felt. The creature rose higher and higher, its form stretching, shifting, unfolding. Until realization dawned on us. A dragon. A dragon was standing behind the human. The entire tavern went silent. Nobody dared to breathe. Then, as if the spectacle wasn't already beyond belief, the screen itself began to distort. Static lines tore across the broadcast, struggling to hold the image. And in those flickering moments, we saw it. The human and the dragon, merging. When the static cleared, the figure standing there wasn't the same human we'd been mocking minutes ago. No. This being looked nothing like before. As if that wasn't enough to make us lose our minds, what followed was nothing short of a nightmare. A massacre. A one-sided torture so cruel to Lord No, Riser's peerage, so deliberate, that I almost wished the broadcast had stayed static forever. The way he impaled their limbs, the way he broke their jaws so they can't surrender, and the way he put a holy cross in their mouth. We had all expected a clash of fire and pride, the usual rating game spectacle. Something to cheer at, place bets on, maybe even laugh about over drinks later. But what we witnessed was nothing like that. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't even a contest. It was an execution painted in suffering. The human No, that thing moved with slow, terrifying certainty. Every gesture was calculated, not to defeat, but to humiliate and suffer. Every strike wasn't meant to kill, but to break. We saw Riser Fennex, a high-class devil, a noble of the Fennex clan, immortal, arrogant, untouchable, reduced to a thrashing, screaming husk. His flames, once a symbol of pride and endless regeneration, were turned against him, smothered and mocked as useless. I could hear people around me gagging. Someone muttered, "Is this even allowed? Is this still a rating game?" Their voice cracked halfway, and no one answered. Because deep down we all knew the rules didn't matter anymore. Whatever we were watching had already transcended the concept of a game. When the human dug into Riser's flesh with his bare hands, tearing eyes from sockets, inserting stones where organs should be, my body went cold. It wasn't the gore alone. We devils have seen plenty of blood, plenty of cruelty. In fact, most of us have committed as well. No, it was the calmness behind it. The way he smiled while doing it, like a child playing with a toy he'd already broken. Even the feed seemed to strain against showing it, flickering as if the very magic carrying the broadcast wanted to shield us from the horror. But no, every second came through. Every scream. Every ragged breath. Every expression of madness was carved into that human's face. And then the words. The way he mocked Riser. Promised to enslave his peerage. To defile his sister. To treat them all as less than filth. His voice carried no hesitation, no mercy, just a cold, twisted amusement that sent ripples of unease through every soul watching. I realized then it wasn't the pain itself that broke us. It was the ease. The way he treated Riser's agony was as nothing more than an afterthought. Like torture wasn't cruelty to him, it was simply nature. This wasn't a victory. This wasn't triumph. This was a nightmare. I turned to look at the others in the tavern, and what I saw etched itself into my mind forever. Devils, who moments ago had been sneering at the idea of a human competing, were now pale, sweating, trembling in silence. Mid-class devils like me, who thought ourselves secure in our world, were hugging our arms, shivering like children. And the worst part? No one dared to look away. It was as if turning from the screen would make us the next target of those cold, unfeeling eyes. By the time it ended, I wasn't even sure what I was anymore: a devil, a bystander, a citizen. All I knew was this. That wasn't a rating game. That was a warning. By the time the dust settled and the battlefield fell eerily silent, we couldn't move. The feed returned, shaky and distorted, but what it showed left us frozen in disbelief. The human No, that monster sat upon a ghostly throne that seemed to grow out of the shadows themselves. Behind him, the dragon loomed, a black and gold monolith of aura and power, eyes piercing through the darkness like twin blue moons of madness. The aura surrounding them wasn't just energy, it was command. The very screen vibrated with it, making the hair on my arms stand on end. All the chaos, all the destruction, all the agony of Riser's peerage paled in comparison to this. We couldn't tell if it was the fusion of human and the dragon that radiated such force, or if the throne itself, carved from shadow and distortion, was alive. Either way, it mattered not. The broadcast captured everything: the ruined school building behind them, the lingering black smoke, the shattered battlefield, the human No, the monster in human skin sitting with calm, insane authority. Even on a small monitor, it felt like the eyes were looking straight through us. Some of the older devils started whispering, their voices trembling. Is that even a human? No, that's not possible. He's nothing. I refuse to believe he can hurt us when we have 4 Satans protecting us, that's impossible. And yet it was real. Every detail of the aura, every ripple of the distortion field, every motionless, confident posture of the throne-bound figure shouted a warning, we are no longer spectators. We are witnesses to a new order. I swallowed hard. My hands trembled. Even the mid-class devils around me, the ones who had scoffed at humans, who had cheered for the Phoenix clan, sat rigid, pale, their earlier bravado drained completely. Suddenly, that monstrous figure on the throne spoke. Hello, dear devils, the voice boomed across every screen, calm and unervingly casual, like reciting a mundane daily routine. You see, I am very upset. I only wanted to live a peaceful life, to make a family. And yet, your politics came knocking at my door. Can you imagine the girl I love being forced to marry some thug for political gain? So yes. I became angry. And this is the result of that anger. A chill ran down my spine. The words were casual, almost serene, yet the sheer weight behind them screamed of the devastation we had just witnessed firsthand. Then he said something that made the air itself grow heavy. Can you devils look outside? Just, take a look at the sky for me. Hesitant, I glanced out the window and what I saw made my stomach drop, my blood run cold. The sky was pitch black, like spilled ink swallowing the horizon. A suffocating darkness pressed down from above, yet paradoxically, the ground was bathed in an unnatural light, as if day and night were simultaneously collapsing on top of each other. And then, the sky opened its eyes. Yes, eyes. Hundreds, maybe thousands, of grotesque, unblinking eyes, all twisted in form, each radiating a malevolent awareness. They weren't merely observing, they were feeding on our terror, twisting our fear into a spectacle for their monstrous amusement. A low, collective gasp rose from the devils around me. Some staggered backward. Some fell to their knees, overwhelmed. The static from the broadcast flickered, almost as if the cameras themselves refused to fully capture what was happening. I could feel it not just with my eyes, but in my bones. Something primal. Something that whispered that no force in hell could withstand the presence of this monster, this living apotheosis of chaos. And as those monstrous eyes blinked, or maybe they never did, I understood something terrifyingly simple: we were utterly, irreversibly insignificant. Nothing we had ever seen in hell, no cunning, no power, no hierarchy, could prepare us for this. The screen trembled again, the aura pulsing like a heartbeat, as if the creature on the throne and the eyes in the sky were one. As if to mock us, the voice from the feed continued, calm yet dripping with amusement. I've heard Devil Society is all about hierarchy, rankings, nobles, and the like, the monstrous figure said. So let me make one thing clear, I am the apex. Not you. Not your nobles. Not even the Satans. A guy from a tavern somewhere shouted back, disbelief echoing in the chaotic broadcast. There's no way. You're not stronger than Satan. They'll protect us. As if anticipating every reaction, the voice chuckled softly, almost taunting. Oh? I hear some of you doubting me. Very well, allow me to prove it. Suddenly, a pressure unlike anything we had ever felt descended from the sky, crushing down with invisible weight. The ground beneath us seemed to bend, our knees buckling as we were forced flat, our breaths pushed from our lungs. Even the bravest devils groaned in pain, faces pressed into the scorched earth. Oh! Wait! Perhaps monsters are more effective. The voice rang out gleefully, like a child playing with ants. In an instant, the oppressive weight vanished and we were no longer in the heart of the city. The outskirts. Open space. Sunless, dark black sky filled with ice. Yet the air was alive with chaos. And then, we saw them. A swarm. Horrific, grotesque, malformed creatures beyond comprehension. Each was a mockery of life, with twisted limbs, gaping maws dripping black ichor, and eyes that burned with unnatural hunger. They moved as one, a writhing, shrieking mass, tearing through buildings, shattering streets, and smashing whatever dared resist them. The capital city of Lilith, once proud, orderly, a monument to Devilkin's strength, was falling in seconds. Windows shattered. Statues toppled. Flames erupted where there had been none before, painting the ruins in hellish orange. I tried to lift my head, my arms trembling, heart hammering in my chest. I wished I hadn't. The monsters swarmed closer, and the ground trembled under their weight. Each step was an earthquake. Each scream from the civilians or devils, rather, was swallowed in a cacophony of chaos. Some devils tried to rally, forming small clusters to resist. Weapons were drawn, spells cast, but the monsters moved too fast, striking with precision and brutality that felt impossibly intelligent. The scene was no longer a fight. It was sheer annihilation. And overhead, the eyes in the sky, the endless, mocking gaze watched, as if savoring every moment of our terror. It wasn't just destruction. It was a lesson, a message: we were insignificant. We were prey. And our apex was nothing. Suddenly, just as those grotesque monsters lunged to tear into a group of fleeing civilians, they vanished, snuffed out in an instant, like smoke swept away by the wind. If not for the ruins they had left behind, the shattered walls, the mangled streets, and other such things, I would have thought it had all been some mass hallucination. Before we could even comprehend it, our surroundings shifted again. In a blink, all of us were back inside the half-collapsed tavern, dust and broken wood littering the floor. Some devils vomited from the abrupt teleportation. Others simply lay trembling, trying to process what had just happened. And then, his voice returned. Calm. Mocking. Absolute. Don't worry, the monster said through the feed. I don't plan to kill you. Nor do I intend to spread mindless destruction. That was just to prove my point. Simple, isn't it? The figure shifted slightly on his throne, Giratina's towering shadow writhing behind him, those piercing blue eyes like twin blades through the screen. Now, I'm sure most of you devils won't even dare to come near me after this. Good. That's smart. But this next part is for those who might still be foolish enough to think they can throw meat shields at me. A pause. Then the words dripped like venom. You've noticed, haven't you? I didn't touch children. I didn't raise hospitals. I didn't slaughter innocents for the sake of it. Not because I'm some bleeding heart, not because I have justice on my side. No. It was to prove something else entirely. His voice hardened, echoing through every corner of the city, as though the words themselves branded into our souls. I can choose. I can single out exactly who I want gone and wipe them from existence. So when I say I will eradicate devils, don't think for a moment that guilt or restraint will stop me. I can select you, your family, your lineage, and burn you out of history with precision. And then, his aura erupted, pitch black energy surging upward into the skies, blotting out what little light remained. The ground shook beneath us, glasses shattered, devils screamed as if their very souls recoiled. His final words were not loud, but they were absolute. So listen well. No matter what, do not ever think of hurting anyone close to me. Do not dare weave your politics around me. Do not play your word games. If you try, I will slaughter you. Every last one of you. And then, just like that, the feed went dark. The crushing pressure lifted. The tavern fell into silence save for the ragged gasps of terrified devils. For the first time since the broadcast began, we could breathe again, though each breath felt heavy, poisoned by the memory of those eyes in the sky. I glanced at the others. Faces pale, eyes wide, bodies frozen in disbelief. None of us could speak. None of us could even move. What had we just seen? A human? No, something beyond human, something that laughed at devils like us. For the first time in my life, I understood true power. And it wasn't mercy. It was absolute. Unquestionable. And terrifying. If that was only the beginning, then what horrors awaited the rest of us? I clenched my fists. My blood ran cold. Hell would never be the same again. Only one thought remained. While we may be devils, that monster, no, that being, was a demon god. Zevian's POV. After giving my speech, Giratina swept through the battlefield, knocking out Riser and his peerage with precision. The stream. I guessed it was over. I couldn't confirm for sure, but most of these streams usually ended after the game. Was this one of those that shows everything all the way to the award ceremony? Before I could think too much, Graphia's voice rang out clearly. All of Lord Riser's peerage has been retired. Lord Riser himself has been knocked out. The victory goes to Lord Zevian and Lady Rias. I let the words sink in for a moment, then gestured to Giratina to open the barrier around Rias and the others. After lifting the barrier, Giratina shrank down to its chibi form and submerged into my shadow. Thanks for the good work, partner, I said as a magic circle formed, teleporting me. I opened my eyes and, bam! Right back in the clubroom with Rias and the others. Before I could even speak, Rias, Akeno, and Konako descended on me like a storm. They tripped me over the floor. As Rias, Akeno, and Konako started delivering swift kicks to my backside. My arms flailed helplessly, and my dignity evaporated faster than smoke. Kiba just shrugged and turned the other way, polishing his sword like he wasn't seeing any of it. I knew it, he was a fake good guy. Normally, Giratina would have jumped in and saved me if they went full supernatural, but this time, I was completely defenseless. A few minutes later, I was on my knees. My hair was a mess, my clothes were wrinkled, and my pride was in critical condition beaten up from their earlier assault. Apparently, Rias was furious at me for charging in all alone. Konako was annoyed that I left her behind. Her expression said more than her words ever could. "And Akeno?" Oh, she just smiled sweetly the entire time while raining down playful slaps and kicks like it was some kind of festival game. She didn't even need a reason. She just saw an opportunity and jumped right in. "Fuck you, Akeno," I muttered under my breath, still wheezing. She only tilted her head, gave me that sadistic smile, and whispered, Era, was that a complaint? I swear, that woman just lives for this. Why would I ever complain about you?" I said it so innocently that even I believed I was innocent. My tone was pure, my eyes wide, like some saint who had never committed a single sin in his entire life. For a brief moment, even Rias and Konako blinked in surprise like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the scum they thought I was. But Akeno? She just leaned closer, her smile widening, eyes glinting with mischief. She patted my head like I was a dog. Era, good boy. Chills ran down my spine. I might have survived the fight with Riser, but this woman? This woman was going to be the death of me. I have to do something about her. Seriously, that sadistic smile of Akeno's is more terrifying than anything I faced in the raiding game. While I was silently plotting my survival strategy, Rias's voice cut through my thoughts firm, serious, with none of her usual softness. "So? Why did you trap us here and fight alone?" Her eyes locked onto mine, sharp as blades. I froze for a second. Right, they were sealed inside the barrier. They didn't see a single thing. But the broadcast did. The entire Devil Society saw it. Sooner or later, the recording would reach them. Better to tell them now, straight from my mouth, than get punished or worse have Rias find out secondhand and double my suffering. I exhaled slowly, bracing myself. "I guess I can tell you now.